critical illness notice was issued the day before yesterday, and I was cuckolded yesterday. After being diagnosed with terminal bone cancer, I simply rented a rundown shack to wait for death. Bored out of my mind, I clicked on a piece of malware that had forcefully downloaded itself to my phone and adopted a cyber magic girlfriend who had her magic core gouged out and was on the verge of starving to death. Little did I know, the one newbie pack I casually bought for her in the game wouldn't just allow her to defy her fate in the magical world. I always thought it was just a game, until one day, my cyber girlfriend gave me a bottle of high-tier magic potion. The next second, that very potion appeared directly in my hand. It seems I don't have to die after all. My name is Silas, a college student who was just diagnosed with mid to late stage cancer. The day after the diagnosis, my girlfriend, who had solemnly vowed to stick with me through thick and thin, bought a Greyhound bus ticket overnight and ran away. I only had $5,000 left in my card. Throwing this money into the hospital wouldn't even make a splash. I simply dropped out of school, rented a single room next to the wetlands park, and planned to wait for death quietly. Just as I was lying in bed waiting for death, an ad that couldn't be deleted suddenly forced its way onto my phone screen. Installation complete. Come and claim your digital girlfriend. Normally, I would backhand report a rogue software like this immediately. But right now, a barefoot man isn't afraid of someone wearing shoes. I had nothing to lose, so I wanted to see what kind of tricks it could play. Opening the app, the graphics were incredibly exquisite. Over a dozen anime-style girls with modeling comparable to AAA masterpieces stood in a row. There was a cyberpunk gang heiress with an explosive figure, a transforming mecha girl full of sci-fi aesthetics, and even a dragon girl with dragon horns on her head. But I'm a guy who doesn't like flashy things. My eyes swept over the lineup and finally stopped on a girl wearing a classic linen dress. Firmament Order female apprentice, Elara, age 19. She had a clear and beautiful face, devoid of any makeup. The most breathtaking part was her eyes hollow, numb, and exuding a strong sense of brokenness, as if she were begging for help through the screen. This indie studio's aesthetics are pretty on point. I choose you. The moment I pressed select, a blood-red tyrannical clause popped up on the screen. Cannot be changed after selection. If the digital girlfriend dies, she will disappear completely. TCH, a crappy game making it sound like a matter of life and death. I clicked confirm. The screen lit up. It wasn't some fantasy adventure beginner village at all, but a drafty, dilapidated wooden cabin that not even a dog would live in. Elara was huddled in rags on a mud-soaked straw mat. She was covered in bruises, with centipede-like knife wounds rolling open on her pale skin, and half of her face was covered in blood washed by the rain. The modeling, the lighting, and her suppressed, agonizing gasps were so realistic that my scalp went numb. Immediately after, 3 lines of red warnings slapped directly onto my face. Elara is cold and starving, physically weak. Elara is affected by abyssal fire poison, enduring excruciating pain. Lifespan remaining, 1 hour. Holy SHT. This girl is about to breathe her last. I panicked and frantically tapped the screen looking for a first aid button. Ding. First top-up of 1 grants a limited-time house renovation gift pack. Give your digital girlfriend a home. $1. Top up. The moment the Apple Pay deduction succeeded, golden light burst forth on the screen. The broken wooden cabin seemed to have been blessed by a miracle. The straw mat visibly transformed into a solid wood bed covered with a velvet duvet. The dilapidated wooden walls instantly restructured into brick and stone, and even a fireplace and classic carved tables and chairs appeared out of thin air. I stared fixedly at the screen. Elara's interactive feedback was incredible. First, she was stunned. Then she fearfully shrank under the bed. It took her quite a while before she carefully crawled out like a frightened kitten. She touched the soft bedding, her eyes full of disbelief. Even the spot where she sat on the mattress showed extremely realistic gravity depression and wrinkle rebound. I was absolutely dumbfounded. This physics engine, these micro-expression sits a god-tier game. Before I could finish marveling, the system's predatory top-up combo arrived. Top up 5 to add a new dress. Top up 10 to set out a royal nutritious feast. I usually don't spend more than $8 on takeout, but top up 15 to acquire her background report. Top up 30 to add 3 epic grade Stormflame runes for self-defense. King top up. In just 2 minutes, I threw over $100 into it. The room was completely renewed. The table was filled with roast turkey and beef Wellington, and 3 gleaming golden magic runes were pasted on the door. In the game, Elara was completely terrified by this miracle of creation out of thin air. She hid under the bed and refused to come out, revealing only one pale, trembling little foot. Taking advantage of this gap, I opened the medical report that had just been generated for her. One look at it, and I wanted to murder someone. This girl's situation was absolutely tragic. She was originally a core apprentice of the Firmament Order. Just because she accidentally scratched the shoulder of the manipulative green tea junior sister Seraphina during the Order's martial arts tournament, holy crap, all the men in the entire Crimson Spire turned completely evil. The eldest senior brother crippled her mana, her mentor pulled out her magic core, the second senior brother forced a low-quality abyssal fire poison potion potion down her throat. The third senior brother expelled her from the order, and the fourth senior brother was even more ruthless, tricked her down the mountain and threw her heavily injured body directly into the wild forest, which was swarming with magical beasts to wait for death. Are this group of hypermacho simps sick in the head? As I was cursing, Alara on the screen finally couldn't resist the aroma and crawled out from under the bed. She swallowed hard, looking at the roast meat on the table, her stomach growling, but she didn't dare to touch the knife and fork. She knelt on one knee to the empty air, clasping her hands together. Junior Alara boldly requests Lord God to show yourself. If the Lord is unwilling to appear, Alara will not touch a single bite of this food, even if I starve to death. A pop-up appeared on the screen. Do you allow Alara to eat? I clicked allow. A grand system notification immediately rang out in the void. Alara wept tears of joy, grabbed the roast meat, and wolfed it down, even chewing and swallowing the bones. After eating, she obediently took a napkin to wipe the grease from the corners of her mouth and carried the plate outside to catch rainwater to wash the dishes. So sensible, just like a little punching bag. But just as I switched to the world map to check the surrounding environment, my heart suddenly tightened. 5 glaring red dots were approaching Alara's cabin at insane speeds. Zooming in, they were 5 shadow direwolves, built like buffaloes with blood-red eyes, and Alara was still foolishly washing the plate on the porch outside. I frantically tapped the screen, but the only thing that popped up was a fatal prompt. Top up 15 to purchase a telepathic voice scroll. No time to worry about the money. Top up. I pressed the scroll icon on the screen and roared, "Monster Siege, fall back into the house immediately." In the game, it was as if the god of the sky dropped a voice of thunder. Alara was startled, dropped the plate, scrambled back into the house, and forcefully barricaded the door. The next second, 3 shadow wolves shattered the curtain of rain, lunging straight at the door with their bloody maws wide open. Boom! The storm flame rune pasted on the door triggered instantly. Blinding lightning and raging fire exploded. 2 of the shadow wolves didn't even have time to let out a yelp before they were instantly turned to ash. Only the smell of burnt meat remained in the air. The remaining 3 shadow wolves were scared out of their wits and split up, trying to flank and sneak attack from the windows and the roof. Boom! Boom! The runes on the windows detonated one after another, resulting in 2 more charred lumps falling to the ground. The final shadow wolf didn't even look back, tucking its tail and sprinting madly into the deep mountain forest. Server launch special offer. Do you wish to purchase the lightning scroll to punish the fleeing magical beast? Only 45. If you cut the weeds but don't dig up the roots, they'll grow back with the spring breeze. What if this beast goes back and calls for backup? Top up. Instantly, a golden bolt of lightning as thick as a barrel struck down from the sky, accurately hitting the fleeing shadow wolf in the rain. Only a burning crater was left in its place. 5 monsters wiped out in half a minute. Alara slumped to the floor, looking at the raging thunder and fire outside the window, her face full of disbelief. Then, she pushed open the door, knelt on both knees facing the torrential rain, and kowtowed heavily to the sky. Junior Alara thanks Lord God for the grace of saving my life. Watching her survivor-like appearance, I suddenly felt that the $100+ I spent was completely worth it. With the crisis resolved, I took a closer look at her status bar. This girl was suffering from 5 fatal debuffs: damaged foundation, shattered mana star sea, fire poison devouring body, inner demons breeding, and severed mana circuits. She tried to rely on meditation to recover her mana, but the progress bar dropped instead of increasing, making her so anxious she coughed up blood. I wanted to help her, but opening the shop, it was full of extortionate, sky-high prices. The only thing I could afford was the Crazy Thursday special high-tier mana gathering array, 30 for 10 hours. Buy 10 top-quality mana crystals radiating rich magical energy, plus 8 glittering golden array flags, smashed directly at Alara's feet, automatically forming a supermassive array. Alara looked at the mana crystals on the ground, her jaw almost dropping. In the magical world, these were treasures that even demigod-level ancient monsters had to pinch pennies to use, yet this mysterious lord casually threw them around like garbage. What a reckless waste of heaven's gifts. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, not daring to waste a single shred of my kindness. She immediately sat cross-legged and madly absorbed the rich mana that had liquefied within the array. Watching her steadily rising experience bar, I put down my phone in satisfaction. In order to support this game, I made a decision. I planned to go back to my old profession of streaming on Twitch to make money. I was going to carry the identity of someone with late-stage bone cancer and go climb Pike's Peak. Every bit earned is a bit gained. Even if I die, I want this girl to survive in the game. Sleeping until midnight, the alarm I set woke me up. Picking up the phone, the gathering array had just expired. The array flags had dimmed, and the crystals had turned to ash. But Alara's complexion was much rosier, and the realm above her head had successfully broken through to Junior Magic Apprentice. Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, the screen was instantly filled with top-up pop-ups. Digital Girlfriend Shop officially open. Monthly card special. First purchase only $299. Daily free mana crystals and potion supplies. plus 1 free divine mana infusion. I took a deep breath. This indie studio really dares to open a lion's mouth. But watching Alara still furrowing her brows due to the fire poison in her body, I gritted my teeth and directly pressed Face ID to pay. Who cares? I don't have many days left to live anyway, and 1,000 gold can't buy my happiness. 2 bulging silk pouches fell from the sky and landed on Alara's table. She poked them curiously and opened the first bag. With a clatter, 50 basic mana crystals rolled out. This was a core apprentice's monthly stipend. She then opened the second brocade box, which contained an impurity-free, ruby-like potion. Epic-grade potent restoration potion, Alara exclaimed, her eyes instantly turning red. Whether it was the crystals or the magic potion, they were tailor-made lifesavers. She bowed deeply to the empty air, swearing to prepare a thank-you gift for me. Right then, a system prompt popped up on my face. Alara is about to begin healing. Do you wish to use the divine mana infusion opportunity to heal her personally? I froze. Personally? How personally? Clicking confirm, I chose a rather pretentious line. Make it quick, I am very busy. Hearing the voice coming from the void, Alara's face instantly turned bright red. She pinched the hem of her skirt and stuttered, "MME Lord, Alara is too dirty. Could you allow me to wash up first? This game even has a bathing scene?" I decisively agreed. Alara walked into the bathroom. As an honorable gentleman, I tentatively tapped my finger on the bathroom door. Insufficient affinity cannot peak. I scoffed. A veteran cadre can withstand the test, making it seem like I really wanted to look. Not long after, the bathroom door slid open. Amidst the swirling steam, Alara walked out wrapped only in a plain white bath towel. Her fragrant shoulders were half exposed, and water droplets slid down her pale calves. She knelt on the bed with her back to the screen, untied the towel, and the fabric fell along the winding curve of her waist, revealing a flawless, smooth, beautiful back. Even my breathing stopped. A prompt popped up on the screen. Please use your left finger to press the spinal nodes, and use your right finger to draw circles and press on the magic core area to begin channeling mana. Holy SHT, it meant personally in a physical sense. Following the prompt, I placed 2 fingers on the screen. Alara in the game immediately let out a fiercely suppressed muffled groan. From her perspective, 2 warm, large hands reached out from the void and pressed directly onto her back. Overbearing arcane power surged into her limbs and bones, forcing the fire poison and black, congested blood out of her pores bit by bit. As my fingers continued to slide, the healing progress bar filled up. Mana circuits repaired. Internal injuries healed. Abyssal fire poison purged. Alara was dripping with sweat, but her skin was as rosy and white as a peeled egg. She wrapped the towel tightly around herself, blushing as she asked me, "My lord's kindness to Alara is as heavy as a mountain." Alara is bold to ask, "May I know my lord's esteemed name?" An input box popped up on the screen. I didn't use any flashy internet handles. I directly typed in my real name, Silas. If I die, at least in this digital world, someone will remember that I existed. Silas, the starlight that shatters the long night, the sturdy shield that guards the cold eve. Lord Silas, Alara will remember. She looked back and smiled, her eyes so gentle you could wring water from them. That smile directly shattered my mental defenses. How is this digital data? This is a f***ing living, breathing person. After the healing was complete, I casually clicked open the system's help center to ask how to repair her shattered mana Starseed. Connecting to the Eye of Truth. Repairing the Starseed requires an ancient holy relic, Aegis remolding holy water. Please draw it from the pool of destiny wishes. Guarantee drop at 15,000. 15,000 bucks for a guarantee. This is robbery. I snatched off the hat on my head and immediately set an alarm to go to the hospital tomorrow morning to get a medical certificate. I am absolutely climbing Pike's Peak, and I must get my hands on this 15,000 bucks. But what I didn't know was that the moment the system connected to the Eye of Truth, the magical world in the game completely blew up. The continent of Ethelgard experienced anomalous phenomena. Astrology shifted, and countless hidden demigod ancient monsters shivered in fear, thinking that some ancient deity was peeking into the laws of the world. This deity was indeed peeking at the laws, but he was stressing over how to scrape together $15,000. That night, the rain stopped. Alara exhausted all the mana she had just recovered, bit her fingertip, and used ancient elven language to crookedly write the 3 words Silas on the leftover scraps of the array flags. This was a protective amulet she made by hand. She even went as far as to deplete her own luck, forcefully sealing divine protection into the talisman paper. "My lord, although the gift is small, I hope you won't despise it." She placed the amulet on the table, obediently closed her eyes, and fell asleep. Early the next morning, the moment I opened my eyes, the game popped up a bunch of red warnings. Using the Eye of Truth triggered a backlash. Luck value plummets. Today's fortune, extremely ominous. Avoid mountaineering. I sneered. I have late-stage bone cancer. Could it be any more ominous than this? If I don't climb the mountain, what am I going to use to draw the Aegis holy water? Closing the prompt, I was just about to head out when someone knocked on the door. Opening the door, the hallway was completely empty. Quietly lying on the floor was a palm-sized delivery box. No tracking number, no FedEx or UPS logo. Printed on it was only a line of small cursive text. A little gift from Alara to be received by Lord Silas. I squatted down, picked picked up the delivery box from the floor, and stared fixedly at that line of text, instantly breaking out in a layer of cold sweat on my back. A little gift from Alara. Isn't this a f***ing game? Tearing open the packaging, inside was an exquisitely crafted scented sachet, with chicken scratch cursive writing that read, "Silas, be safe and sound." I leaned in to smell it, and an extremely faint, elegant fragrance entered my nasal cavity. Not sweet, not cloying, just simple and tranquil. This was absolutely not some cheap perfume. The scent was exactly as if a living, breathing girl were standing in front of me. Unbelievable. Even in-game items could be manifested one-to-one into reality. The background of this game is absolutely not simple, but I didn't have time to think too deeply. Alara's mana star sea was shattered, and if I wanted to fix it, I had to spend $15,000 to pull for the guaranteed holy water. I went to the barbershop and shaved my head bald, pinned my bone cancer diagnosis certificate on my Twitch homepage, and that afternoon, I flew directly to the foot of Pikes Peak and started streaming. The title was simple and brutal: Terminal Bone Cancer, 5-hour Pikes Peak Summit Challenge. As soon as the stream started, the screen was filled with people cursing me for selling a sob story to scam money. There was even a grumpy local guy named Chad who threatened to drive over and expose me face. At midnight, Chad brought a few viewers and blocked the trailhead, sneering and pointing at my leg, telling me to roll up my pant leg. I didn't bother arguing. I just rolled my pant leg up to my knee. The dense osteosarcoma lumps under the skin were a terrifying purplish red. The whole crowd went dead silent. Chad's face flushed bright red. Ashamed, he slapped himself hard across the mouth and instantly sent me 10 Super Rockets large donations on the spot to apologize. The stream exploded instantly. All the doubts turned into encouragement, and the viewer count skyrocketed. I carried my streaming tripod and climbed up step by step. The intense pain brought by the bone cancer was like a blunt saw cutting my nerves. Sweat soaked my clothes completely. With every step, my right leg felt like it was rolling over the tips of knives. The viewers and tourists following behind me gathered more and more, all of them worrying for me. When I was on the last stretch to the summit, with a crisp crack, my right leg instantly deformed and bent, and my entire body fell heavily onto the rocks. Concurrent pathological fracture. The girls behind me screamed in terror, and Chad was so anxious he was about to call 911. I gritted my teeth, forcibly suppressing the urge to pass out, expressionlessly pulled out a folding cane from my bag, propped myself up, and continued to inch upward. Retreat? Impossible. I'm still a few $1,000s short of saving my cyber wife. The stream went completely crazy, and donations flew everywhere. A big spender wearing a god-tier wealth title didn't say a word and directly smashed a 15,000 gift. The money was enough. The moment I stepped onto the summit of Pikes Peak, the sun broke at dawn. The light and shadows in the sky twisted, and a mirage resembling an ancient Roman legion unexpectedly appeared. That phantom of a deity stepped on the clouds, passed through the crowd of tourists, and actually lowered his head, staring dead at me with a pair of golden vertical pupils. I had no time to care about any miracles. I just wanted to get down the mountain to save someone. While riding the cable car down the mountain, a few heavily tattooed burly gang members squeezed into the same cabin with me. Just as the doors were about to close, the lanyard of the protective amulet on my chest suddenly snapped, and the sachet fell to the floor. The moment I bent down to pick it up, the entire mountain violently shook. Rumble. A massive boulder fell from the sky, instantly smashing the cable car in front of us into an iron pancake. I followed the inertia of grabbing the amulet and rolled out of the ticket hall, luckily escaping death. I only found out later that everyone who died in that cable car were drug dealers. I ignored the agonizing pain of my broken leg, crawled into the convenience store at the foot of the mountain, and grabbed a power bank to keep my phone alive. As soon as I opened the game, a screen full of blood red warnings popped up like crazy. Alara is under attack by a small monster tide. Alara is critically injured. Life is in imminent danger. My eyes turned bloodshot. On the screen, the cabin had been razed to the ground. Alara, covered in blood, collapsed among a pile of monsters. Under her rag-like clothes were rolling, gaping wounds. She gripped a broken sword tightly in her hand, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood, trying to kill the person I'm raising. I opened the shop, my fingers turning into afterimages as I directly emptied the inventory of Stormflame runes. Buy. Over 200 lightning and fire runes rained down from the sky like they were free, instantly blasting the area around Alara into a purgatory of thunder. The monsters were all blasted into ash. Even the vicious female supporting character hiding in the shadows, who had secretly used a beast-luring incense, was locked onto by an epic-grade rune I used and was struck until her soul was destroyed on the spot. The crisis was lifted, but Alara's health bar was empty. She passed out, not even having the strength to drink a potion. The system was so hardcore it made one's hair stand on end. Cannot autonomously swallow recovery potions. I quickly clicked on the Eye of Truth for help. System prompt. Spend 1,500 to purchase the Lost Secret Art Holy Spirit Acupoint Piercing Technique to heal her. Top up. I didn't even blink. After spending the money to buy the skill and the mithril needle consumables, an acupoint map of Alara immediately popped up on the screen. Holding the phone, my fingers tapped madly on the screen, left finger pressing, right finger drawing Circlese's virtual silver needles precisely pierced into her acupoints one by one. Then, I ground the recovery potion and sprinkled it on her wounds. The wounds healed at a visible speed, and Alara finally kept her life. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, My phone screen went black from a dead battery. I only then realized that I had already been taken to a hospital ward by an ambulance. In the adjacent bed lay an old man with a broken leg, and coincidentally, a set of Chinese silver needles viewed as alternative therapy tools in the West was placed on his nightstand. Looking at that set of needles, my hands suddenly felt extremely itchy. The muscle memory of applying needles in the game was actually deeply carved into my brain. I grabbed the silver needles and, following the techniques from the game, madly pierced my fractured and swollen right leg. 36 silver needles fell, rotating and piercing the acupoints. The moment I pulled the needles out, the purplish red congested blood in my right leg miraculously faded. Holy crap, Imagenius. The medical skills from this game actually work in reality. Without a second word, I refused the inpatient surgery, bought that set of silver needles at the pharmacy, and limped on my crutch into a burger joint, plugging in the power bank to go online again. The $15,000 in sponsorship fees had arrived in my account. Pool of destiny wishes, all in. Golden lights flashed continuously. 1,000 pulls hit the pity guarantee, and a crystal clear Aegis remolding holy water lay quietly in my inventory. In the game, Alara had just woken up, her face full of despair. I pressed the telepathic voice scroll and directly threw the holy water onto her table. This is the holy water that can restore your mana star C. Drink it quickly. Alara looked at this bottle of holy water radiating peerless magical energy, trembling all over in fear. She knew how precious this thing was and refused to take it even if it meant death. My lord, this holy water is too precious. Alara cannot repay it. I cannot take it. You think I can't handle an AI? I roared. Cut the crap. This thing is useless to me. I just caused such a huge commotion. If you don't drink it, you're just making trouble for me. Alara's eyes turned red. She suddenly fell to one knee, placed her right fist over her chest, and made a sacred vow to the sky. Alara has received my lord's immense grace and has no way to repay it. In the future, if my lord has any orders, even if it means crossing mountains of blades and seas of fire, or entering the bottomless hell, Alara will not hesitate to die 10,000 deaths. The vow triggered a resonance with the laws of the world, and a fierce wind whipped up her long hair. She held up the holy water and swallowed it in one gulp. Boom! The sky in the game was instantly torn apart by a heaven-piercing blue light. Mana turned into a tornado shooting straight into the clouds. All the old monsters of the continent of Ethelgard were alarmed. Countless red dots pounced toward the wild forest like mad dogs. The system came to stir up trouble again. A holy relic has appeared, causing a tremor in all directions. Do you wish to top up 5 to conceal the heavenly secrets? I paid while cursing. The blue light dissipated instantly, and those big shots of the magical world ran around the mountains like headless flies, completely unable to find any trace of Alara. Looking at Alara on the screen, who was regaining her vitality and beginning to remold her mana star C, I let out a long breath of relief. While she was meditating to absorb the potion's power, I opened my inventory, preparing to tally the loot from the 1,000 pulls just now. Among a pile of junk runes and crystals, my eyes instantly locked onto the last slot. Lying quietly, there was a mysterious data slate radiating dazzling golden light. Clicking it open, it was a mythic-grade cultivation method, the Astral Blade Codex. I was ecstatic. This was the ultimate skill of a magic swordsman. I couldn't wait to impart it to Alara. As a result, a red warning popped up on the screen. Players must cultivate the sword technique to the initial glimpse realm before imparting it. Following that, the front camera automatically turned on, and a transparent little figure appeared on the screen, striking a classic knight stance, standing on one leg, holding a sword vertically in front. I was numb. This crappy game is making me practice swordplay in reality, and I have to do it. Left with no choice, I gritted my teeth, pulled out the drying rack from the hotel wardrobe, dragged my cast-covered crippled leg, and clumsily struck the pose facing the screen. I held it for a full hour, my back completely soaked in sweat, and the progress bar only crawled up by 1%. I collapsed on the floor, feeling like all the bones in my body were about to fall apart. Just then, a muffled thump came from outside the door. Pushing the door open, a black, furry kitten was lying prone on the floor. Its hind legs were mangled with blood and flesh, and there were a few raptor feathers on its back. It was probably snatched midair by an eagle and dropped. I picked it up, brought it inside, and stuffed it into a shoebox. It was the middle of the night, so I couldn't go to a pet hospital. I pulled out the silver needles I bought during the day and gestured at it. An acupoint map of a cat instantly surfaced in my mind. I pinched the needle, my technique as fast as lightning. After a few pricks, the wound on the kitten's back immediately stopped bleeding and scabbed over. I turned around happily to go take a shower, completely unaware that the black cat behind me suddenly opened its eyes, revealing a pair of golden vertical pupils. It stared dead at me, its eyes full of greedy, murderous intent. It was actually a hell beast. When I came back from the shower, a major event happened in the game. After Alara swallowed the remolding holy water, the remolding of her mana star C reached its final critical juncture. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, a magic array pattern blooming with blue light actually condensed at her lower abdomen. A perfect grade star C. The system immediately popped up a warning. A perfect star C has attracted the peeping of an undead monarch. Do you wish to purchase the Guardian package? Flipping through the list, the cheapest package was 30. Top up. Right after the money was deducted, the sky on the screen was instantly obscured by a cloud of blood-red mist. The demigod-level necromancer Malachar hovered in midair, letting out a piercing, maniacal laugh. He slammed his palm down, and the death aura formed a sky-covering bloody hand, crashing straight toward Alara's cabin. I sneered and frantically tapped the screen with my fingers. The lightning and fire barrier I just bought activated instantly. The array runes all over the ground lit up, transforming into an inverted dome of light that forcibly withstood the bloody handprint. Then, a typing keyboard popped up on the screen. System prompt: enter the incantation in the correct sequence to trigger the array's attack. My needle-piercing hand speed, which I had just practiced, was pushed to the max. My fingers turned into afterimages on the keyboard, typing frantically with a crackling sound. Instantly, dense barrages of lightning and fire shot out from the array. Over a dozen pillars of thunder soared into the sky, blasting Malakur's face pitch black on the spot, his hair standing on end like a dandelion. The old demon became exasperated and directly unleashed his Stage 3 ultimate ability. A gigantic, green-faced, fanged avatar of death rose behind him, clasped its hands together, and pressed down fiercely. The light dome of the thunder and fire array cracked inch by inch. Alara anxiously shouted for me to be careful. I opened my inventory, directly dragged out the Judgment Thunder rune included in the package, held down the voice key, and acted tough. Mere ant, I can kill you with a wave of my hand. The rune ascended into the sky. The sky in the game instantly turned blacker than ink, and violent thunderclouds rolled madly. I followed the on-screen prompts, quickly drawing the rune with my finger. Boom! A purple lightning dragon as thick as a barrel tore through the clouds, opened its massive maw, and swallowed Malakur's avatar in one bite. Following that, 10,000 bolts of lightning fired simultaneously, directly striking this unbearably arrogant demigod old demon into ashes all over the ground. His health bar was instantly cleared to 0. I blew on my fingers. $30 for an instant kill, satisfying. The commotion here was too big, and it directly attracted the people of the Firmament Order. Two familiar NPCs appeared on the screen: Grandmaster Valerius and his direct eldest disciple Julian, whose mana had been crippled. I remembered very clearly how miserably these guys had bullied Alara back then. Standing before the crater filled with lightning and fire, Julian fell to his knees with a plop, crying and shouting to the sky, "Lord God, this junior star sea is completely shattered. I beg my lord to grant me the Aegis remolding holy water. This junior is willing to serve as your ox and horse." A system prompt box popped up. "Do you wish to grant a fortuitous encounter?" I laughed out of sheer anger. "You want my lifeblood?" I held down the telepathic voice scroll, took a deep breath, and cursed at the screen. "Screw you. Why don't you take a piss and look at your own reflection to see what kind of trash you are? Get the FCK out of here." In the game, fierce winds howled. That get out sounded like a thunderclap on flat ground, directly shocking Valerius and Julian so much that their faces turned ashen. The master and disciple lost all face and ran away with their tails between their legs in disgrace. In the cabin, Alara heard that angry curse. She was stunned for a moment, then burst out laughing, her eyes curving into crescents. She carefully took out a mana crystal bracelet she had polished herself and knelt on one knee to the void. "My lord, this is a protective amulet Alara made by hand. I hope my lord will not despise it." System prompt: received a gift from your digital girlfriend. My heart instantly felt warm. Just then, I suddenly felt a wave of sleepiness hit me, and I collapsed and fell asleep. In the middle of the night, the shoebox opened silently. That black cat jumped onto the table. Its body twisted and elongated under the moonlight, and the silhouette of an ancient giant beast was cast on the wall. It stared dead at my neck and lunged fiercely, its sharp claws gleaming with a cold light. Just at the moment its claws were about to slash my throat, the black dragon tattoo on my back suddenly came alive. The giant dragon opened its eyes in fury and let out an earth-shattering roar. A pitch-black dragon tail whipped out from my back and, like swatting a fly, smacked the black cat out of midair with a loud smack, sending it crashing heavily back into the shoebox. The black cat violently coughed up blood, trembling all over in terror. It shrank dead into the corner, never daring to move again. Meanwhile, I rolled over, smacked my lips, and slept like a log. The alarm rang early the next morning. I clicked open the game, and Alara's realm had already soared to high-tier apprentice. The battle pass system was unlocked, and I claimed another wave of rewards. Suddenly, a knock came from the door. I rushed out on my crutches, but the hallway was empty, leaving only 2 packages. One was labeled "A Little Gift from Alara." Tearing it open, it was a crystal bracelet. Holding it in my hand, it was bone-chillingly cool and even carried that faint, elegant fragrance from Alara's body, instantly dispelling all my fatigue. The other box was a full meter and a half long. I cut the tape open, and inside actually lay a heavily forged crossguard longsword. The blade was covered in black runes, and it felt heavy in the hand. Drawing the sword from its scabbard, its cold light was intimidating. I plucked a hair and dropped it onto the blade, and the hair was instantly cut into 2 pieces. It sliced through iron like mud. What kind of background does this game company have to even be able to mail legendary weapons over? I grabbed the rune longsword, looked at the Astral Blade Codex on my phone, and steeled my resolve. Just practicing with a drying rack in the room wouldn't be effective. I needed to find a spacious place, wearing my pajamas. Leaning on my crutch and carrying the drying rack, I headed straight for the small plaza across from the hotel. There was an old man practicing medieval swordplay Hema in the plaza. I ignored him, faced the phone screen, and struck the pose of the knight's opening salute, grimacing in pain. The old man couldn't stand watching anymore. He walked over and slapped my shoulder. "Young man, your stance is unstable, and that's not how you use your core strength." Saying that, he kicked the back of my knee and pressed down heavily on my shoulders with both hands. I gasped in pain and was about to get angry, but out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the phone screen resting on the ground. As the old man helped correct my posture, I was shocked to find that the cultivation progress of the blade codex on the screen was wildly surging at a terrifying, visible speed. The progress bar skyrocketed from 2 all the way to 13. "Master, please accept my bow." I threw down the drying rack, turned around, and immediately bowed to the old man. Old Arthur felt comfortable all over being called master by me. Smiling, he continued to help me adjust my lower stance. But when his hands touched the cast on my right leg, and then the hard osteosarcoma lumps under the skin, the old man's expression instantly changed. He grabbed my pulse. A few seconds later, cold sweat dripped down his forehead. 10 deaths, no life. He looked at me, his lips trembling. "Old man, you have a sharp eye." I grinned, my face full of calmness. "Latest stage bone cancer. I don't have many days left to live. While I can still breathe, I'm doing things I didn't dare to do before. Just treat it as experiencing retired life in advance." The old man opened his mouth but couldn't speak for a long time. He looked at me, his eyes full of sorrow. Finally, he let out a long sigh and told me to come every morning. He would personally instruct me in swordplay. Returning to the hotel, I rubbed my chin and pondered. Last night, holding the drying rack for half an hour made my whole body fall apart. Today, I practiced for 5 or 6 hours without breakfast, and I didn't feel tired at all. I could even remember the force-exerting techniques of complex sword moves after just seeing them once. I understood. Although the cancer cells were taking my life, they had accidentally activated my genetic potential. Since that's the case, I absolutely cannot waste this photographic memory talent. I pulled out my phone, my eyes locking onto the skill upgrade panel in the game. Holy Spirit Acupoint Piercing Technique Advanced LV2 Mana Circuit Opening. Requires applying needles 1,000 times or top up 150. 1,000 times? Where would I find the time for that? It's just $150. Top up. As the bank card deduction succeeded, the skill icon radiated golden light. The advanced needle technique was officially activated. At this very moment, Alara in the game also experienced a qualitative leap. The power of the perfect mana star C completely erupted. Overnight, her cultivation level soared wildly, directly breaking through to peak apprentice, on the verge of stepping into the realm of an official mage. But right at this moment, a sudden mutation occurred. Alara on the screen suddenly turned deathly pale, breaking out in cold sweat, with a trace of black blood leaking from the corner of her mouth. A blood red warning popped up on the status bar. Encountered inner demon attack. Deep in her consciousness, those hypocrites from the Firmament Order transformed into gigantic ghost faces, tightly surrounding her. Mentor Alaric glared in fury. "Alara, you injured your fellow junior sister, devoid of benevolence and righteousness. Being expelled from the Order, even death cannot wipe out your crimes." Eldest senior brother Lucius' face was full of sarcasm. "Just based on you, a cripple, you still want to become a mage? How utterly laughable." Several other senior brothers pointed at her nose and cursed vilely, demanding she spit out the potion she drank. And behind all the ghost faces, the White Lotus junior sister Seraphina, who had stolen everything from her, was hiding in the crowd, covering her mouth and giggling coquettishly. "Senior sister Alara, people like you don't deserve to live. Just disappear." Sentence after sentence of vicious curses turned into sharp blades, slicing Alara's soul into 1,000 pieces. Watching the screen, my anger flared. These animals are bullying her too much. I decisively clicked on the Eye of Truth and spent money to look up a guide. System prompt: to break the inner demon, she must return to the Firmament Order and sever the karma. Bonus: 1 bottle of epic grade heart protection potion. I immediately fed the potion into Alara's mouth and activated the needle application mode. The phone screen instantly split into 2. The thin linen undershirt was soaked with sweat, clinging tightly to her skin. I was in no mood to appreciate this erotic scene. My eyes were locked onto the lit golden magic nodes. Left finger pressing, right fingers flying together, arcane mana turned into silver needles, piercing accurately. In the illusion, Alara was being dragged toward the abyss by countless ghost hands. Suddenly, a clear, ringing sword hum slashed through the darkness. A blinding sword light descended from the sky, instantly cleaving those ugly ghost faces into flying ash. She looked up and vaguely saw a white-haired figure in black clothes holding a sword standing in the light, with a 5-clawed black dragon coiled around him, roaring at the sky. "My lord!" Alara abruptly opened her eyes, awakening from the illusion. The inner demons retreated, and she lay on the bed drenched in sweat. Waves of tingling numbness came from her abdomen and waist, as 2 invisible mana hands roamed over her body, massaging her. She instantly realized who was helping her heal, and her entire face turned so red it looked like it was about to drip blood. Just as I was about to withdraw my hands, a series of violent knocks came from outside the cabin. "Alara, open the door. I know you're in there." Eldest senior brother Lucius. This bastard followed the traces of yesterday's magical battle and found his way here. He acutely sensed the mana fluctuations of the peak level inside the house. Seeing that Alara wouldn't open the door, he raised his staff, intending to blast the wooden door to pieces with an explosive fireball. The system popped up 3 options. 1. Blast him away with 1 strike. 2. Suppress him with aura. 3. shatter his eardrums will be deemed a dark mage. The option to kill him didn't even have a top-up channel. This meant the son of a BTCH had to be left for Alara to deal with personally. I chose option 2 without hesitation. Outside the house, before Lucius' fireball even touched the door panel, a terrifying aura resembling a massive mountain crashed down. Crack! The sound of bone fracturing was crisp and ear-piercing. Lucius' knees smashed heavily, shattering the floor tiles. His entire body was firmly pressed to the ground, unable to even lift his head. He was scared out of his wits, realizing a peerless big shot was hiding inside the house, and desperately begged for mercy. This junior is Lucius, eldest disciple of the Crimson Spire. I didn't know my lord was here. Please forgive my offense. I held down the telepathic voice scroll and shouted angrily, "Shut up!" A fierce wind swept out. The door violently burst open and then slammed shut. Lucius was blown away dozens of meters by the shockwave, wildly vomiting blood. Alara pushed the door open. She had changed into a clean long dress, her temperament as cold and clear as an unsheathed sharp sword. Lucius clutched his chest and climbed up, putting on a hypocritical face. "Junior sister, I've come to take you back to the Order. At worst, after we go back, I'll bankrupt myself to buy you another single-element magic core, to drain someone else's talent and give it away, and still speak so self-righteously. Lucius, tomorrow I will return to the Firmament Order." Alara stared at him deadened, speaking word by word, only to make a clean break with the past. Lucius felt his heart go cold being stared at by those dead, silent eyes, and he scrambled away. I casually opened my inventory and tossed over a top-tier magic artifact, the moon-concealing long sword, which had dropped from killing the demigod old demon. "I bestow this sword upon you. With me here, go all out." Just then, my phone in reality rang. An unknown number called, and the person immediately introduced themselves as the director of the reality show Wilderness Ventures. "Mr. Silas, your Pikes Peak Challenge video has exploded across the internet. Hundreds of millions of views. We want to invite you as a mystery guest for our next episode filming a hike at Blackwood Mountain. Just say yes, and a 100,000 appearance fee will be wired to your account immediately." Without any hesitation, I signed the electronic contract right away. Getting the money, I immediately took a cab and rushed to the hospital for a checkup, thinking that with this money, I could extend my life a little longer. But the attending doctor looked at the scans and sighed. "In less than a month, the cancer cells have spread throughout your whole body, even into your brain. Young man, this disease is incurable. Take the money you earned and enjoy the days you have left." The doctor's words were like pronouncing my death sentence. Walking out of the hospital, I suddenly smiled with relief. Money can't buy my life, and that's fine. I can take this 100 grand and buy a life in the game. The next day at 12 p.m., the game screen shifted. Alara, dressed in a white dress and carrying the moon-concealing longsword, stepped alone onto the front plaza of the Firmament Order's main hall. Mentor Alaric, the Grand Magus, led the way, with the 4 senior brothers following closely behind. Hiding behind eldest senior brother Lucius was that delicate white lotus, Seraphina. Alaric stared down at Alara from a higher position and let out a furious shout. "Alara, do you confess your sins?" Alara tightened her grip on the sword hilt and coldly spat out a few words. "I, Alara, am innocent." The entire plaza went dead silent. A crippled outcast actually dared to publicly talk back to a Grand Magus. "Insolent, kneel before me." Grand Magus Alaric's terrifying aura crashed toward Alara. Right at this hair-raising moment, my phone screen instantly froze. A glittering golden prompt box smashed into the center. "Please create your game character first." I cursed on the spot. "I've thrown in so much money, and I've played up to now, only for you to give me the character creation page." Opening the mall, it was full of the fragrance of top-ups. Limited time special elven white hair, 150. Buy. Black crystal dragon robe, 600. Buy. Max out special effects. Buy. In 3 seconds, a peerless magic swordsman with flowing white hair, fluttering black clothes, and surrounded by a coiled black dragon appeared on the screen. The badass vibe was maxed out. Next, the system popped up the most lethal options. Realm Insta-Boost Specials. Peak Mage Trial Card, 150 day. Grand Magus Trial Card, 1,500 day. Peak Demigod Trial Card, 30,000 day. Looking at these numbers, I glanced at the 100,000 balance that had just arrived in my account. I didn't hesitate at all. My finger stabbed fiercely onto the Peak Demigod option. Payment password entered. 30,000 evaporated instantly. Boom! On the screen, my game character violently erupted with dazzling divine light that pierced heaven and earth. The overwhelming pressure of a Peak Demigod, like a tangible tsunami, crashed directly into the continent of Ethelgard. The pressure Alaric exerted on Alara was instantly shattered into powder. I pressed down hard on the telepathic voice scroll, my eyes cold, and roared out that suppressed line word by word. "With me here today, let me see who dares." As soon as the words fell, 2 terrifying spiritual pressures collided explosively in the plaza. Alaric's aura was instantly crushed by me, and the disciples behind him were all pressed flat onto the ground, their faces turning the color of pig liver. I held the voice talisman, my tone arrogant. "This exalted one only accompanied her today to settle karma. If you dare touch a single hair on her head, this exalted one will disregard any face the Firmament Order has." Grandmaster Valerius immediately restrained Alaric, sending a telepathic warning warning not to act rashly. Seeing this group of old geezers intimidated, Alara walked straight up to 4th senior brother Draven and directly pulled out the evidence of him causing trouble, owing debts, and soliciting prostitutes outside, smashing it fiercely in his face. Draven flew into a shameful rage, drawing his broken sword to challenge Alara to a duel. Alara drew the moon-concealing long sword, her figure transforming into a stunning streak of light. With a crisp clang, Draven's magic artifact broke cleanly in two. He let out a scream, a deep, bone-revealing bloody gash sliced across his chest, and he completely passed out. 4th senior brother, defeated. Next was 3rd senior brother Cedric, who had colluded with an outer sect elder to falsely accuse a fellow disciple. Alara directly swore an oath by the laws of the Great Tao to prove her innocence. The system almost struck her dead with lightning, and I quickly spent money to stuff an epic-grade holy water into her to save her life. Cedric was dragged down by the law enforcement knights, his tongue pulled out and his eyes gouged on the spot. 3rd senior brother, crippled. It was 2nd senior brother Kalen's turn, the alchemist who administered the poison. I spent money to buy a bunch of abyssal fire poison potions, swapped out his pills, and forced him to swallow them. The superposition of 3 types of fire poison erupted, and his eyes rolled back as he fainted. 2nd senior brother, crippled. Finally, eldest senior brother Lucius stepped forward. He unleashed the ultimate move he used to defeat Alara back then. But Alara's eyes were as cold as frost. The moon-concealing long sword in her hand turned into a blur of afterimages, unleashing 14 continuous strikes. Clang! Lucius' flying sword was knocked out of his hand, and he was forced to his knees by the shock. The cold blade of the moon-concealing long sword rested firmly against his neck. Eldest senior brother, defeated. Watching Alara massacre all sides on the screen and completely sever her karma, I let out a long breath of foul air. Satisfying. This 30,000 bucks was totally worth it. Right then, the hotel room doorbell rang. Leaning on my crutch, I opened the door. Standing outside was a courier in a suit and tie, handing me a heavy, pure black metal case. Mr. Silas, this is the special equipment custom-made for you by the production team of Wilderness Ventures. I signed for it and opened the case. Inside actually lay a cyberpunk-style black gaming helmet. Next to it was an instruction manual. Looking at the 4 large words on the manual, brain-computer interface, my heart beat wildly. Could this thing actually let me enter the game directly? I didn't hesitate anymore and strapped this highly advanced black VR helmet onto my head. Who cares if it might explode? The 30,000 of real money I dumped into it can't just go down the drain. My vision went dark for a moment. The next second, my line of sight opened up entirely. Alara's slender, straight back was standing right in front of my eyes. I could even see the tiny blood vessels beneath her skin and hear the sound of the wind rolling up the sand. Looking around, this was a 1:1 recreation of the Firmament Orders Plaza. I was truly, physically standing on the soil of this magical world. At this moment, eldest senior brother Lucius was kneeling on the ground, preparing to cripple his own mana star sea. Suddenly, a furious shout exploded overhead. Wicked spawn, I worked so hard to cultivate you, and you're actually going to cripple your cultivation for a woman? Get your ass to the penance dungeon. Grand Magus Alaric finally couldn't sit still. As a demigod level big shot, he was dead set on protecting his most beloved eldest disciple. Protective of your own, huh? Resorting to sophistry, huh? A long string of red warning text immediately popped up in front of my eyes, notifying me that holographic projection was activated and I could act freely to confront him. I sneered, and the aura of a peak demigod erupted explosively. This exalted one said, "No one is allowed to interfere in today's matters. Alaric, you old dog, do not say I didn't warn you." As soon as the words fell, the entire area fell dead silent. Alaric drew his magic scepter, his latest-stage demigod aura crashing over like a tidal wave. He used magic to compress his voice into a thin line and whispered to the person next to him, certain that I was just an illusion trying to put on a false front. The void around me began to twist madly. I took a step forward, wearing dark clothes and white hair, holding the black-scaled long sword. The phantom of a domineering, peerless black dragon roared and lunged out from behind me, coiling and snapping around the blade of the sword, while a thunderclap struck from the sky. Alara turned her head, staring dead at my profile, forgetting to even breathe. "Step back, girl. I am going to start killing." On the outside, I looked steady as an old dog, but inside, I was panicking like crazy. A row of skill bars lit up on the right side of my vision. How do you control this crappy VR game? Do I just click whatever lights up? System prompt. The beginner combat tutorial will now commence. Time around me instantly froze. A water ripple mirror and a wooden dummy appeared out of nowhere. The system told me that the neural mapping technology would allow me to release magic and sword skills directly through my thoughts. I stared at the sword sovereign avatar in the mirror and tried to swing a sword. The wooden dummy shattered. The first stance of the Astral Blade Codex automatically surfaced in my mind. With a thought, the sword hummed like a dragon. My sword and I turned into a blindingly white afterimage, instantly piercing and exploding the wooden dummy. Then, a 2-stage instant transmission pulled me back. The movements were as smooth as flowing water, so badass that even my own scalp tingled. Holy SHT, Awesome. The tutorial ended. Time resumed flowing. I locked onto Alaric and Lucius in the distance. Old thing, you like to interfere, huh? Today, I'll sacrifice you to the heavens. Thoughts tumbling. The 10th stance of the Astral Blade Codex Silver Moon Daybreak. The black-scaled sword unsheathed by half an inch, and the berserk sword intent sliced the surrounding air until it creaked. Take this exalted one's sword. In front of the Firmament Order's main hall, a silver full moon rose from the flat ground. Standing within the full moon, I casually slashed down. The sea of clouds was instantly torn in half, and boundless killing intent locked onto Alaric. He gritted his teeth, unleashing his strongest defensive arcane spell, Galaxy Shield, trying to tank it forcefully. But how dare a mere spark compete with the bright moon? The sword light flashed, and the full moon dissipated. Tens of thousands of densely packed sword holes pierced the plaza. Alaric was covered in blood, leaning heavily on that magic scepter that now looked like scrap metal, kneeling in a pool of blood and trembling violently. I strolled out of the moonlight, not even giving him a glance, and stopped right in front of Lucius. Will you do it yourself, or shall this exalted one help you? Lucius' face was deathly pale, his Adam's apple bobbing frantically. I'll do it myself. He struck a backhanded palm onto his lower abdomen. A muffled thud echoed as his mana reversed flow. Clutching his shattered star sea, he rolled around on the ground in excruciating pain like a dying dog. I turned and walked toward Seraphina, who was shivering in fear. This green tea BTSH put on the act of a frightened deer, tears welling up in her eyes. But floating clearly in my vision was her status panel. Seraphina, 347 years old, mid-stage demigod, self-sealed, innate succubus bloodline. A top-tier hidden old monster. Huh? What was even more fatal was that, because I tried too hard to act tough just now, my mana bar was empty. I looked down at her expressionlessly, hand over Ilara's water element magic core. Seraphina clenched her teeth and refused to relent. If she undid her seal to fight me, her identity would definitely be exposed. After weighing the pros and cons, she pretended to be extremely wronged, puffed out her chest, and turned her head away. My lord can take it directly. With a backhand, I went for all of the above. I reached out and grabbed fiercely. A system option popped up, and without hesitation, I ripped out the top-tier water core that originally belonged to Ilara, along with her hidden earth and would dual cores, all at once. Stuffing them into my inventory, I gave her a meaningful look. Seraphina was dumbfounded. Even a legendary realm expert couldn't see through her succubus bloodline disguise. She thought I was an abyssal demon lord who saw through her true background, and she was so scared she even stopped breathing. The people were beaten, revenge was taken, the items were obtained, and my mana was completely drained. Ilara, let's go. Go? An extremely old voice suddenly sounded from behind. At some unknown moment, an old woman in white clothes, leaning on a dragon head walking stick, stood next to Alaric. There was no aura fluctuation at all, yet it made one's hair stand on end. The old woman slammed her walking stick onto the ground, and Cyan ripples spread out. All the elders of the Firmament Order in the plaza fell to their knees with a thud. The hidden boss of the order, a mighty figure in the legendary realm, the Firmament High Priestess, beat the young ones, and the old ones come out. The fantasy web novel tropes really didn't deceive me. With half my face shadowed, I forced myself to stay calm. So you're the old monster hiding here? Heh. The entire crowd gasped in cold air. A demigod provoking a legend? Courting death. I knew perfectly well what was going on, and I frantically screamed at the system in my mind. Let me top up. Raise my realm to peak legendary. Realm not yet open and insufficient balance. Holy SHT, Imdoom. The High Priestess laughed in extreme anger. Behind her, a six-armed Cyan stone avatar abruptly rose, covering the sky and the sun. Right at this critical moment, you have enraged the Firmament High Priestess. Please select multiple choices allowed. Option 1, 5 to buy a teleportation scroll to escape. Option 2, 15 to buy a latest legendary aura trial card 30 seconds. Option 3, 30 to increase charm value, making her look at you in a new light. Only kids make choices. A pay-to-win big shot takes them all. Apple Pay deducted 50. In an instant, the aura on my body unreservedly surged wildly, directly piercing through to latest legendary. The black dragon avatar behind me roared at the sky, forcefully suppressing the Cyan stone avatar by a head. The High Priestess stared dead at my face, whose charm value had maxed out, and her arrogance instantly deflated like a punctured balloon. Zephyr, is it you? She actually mistook me for her dead former lover. I didn't give her any chance to get close. I coldly dropped a sentence. The karma has been cleared. Farewell. Crushing a high-tier teleportation scroll, I grabbed Ilara's hand, and we instantly vanished from the spot, escaping with our lives. I used telekinesis to carry Ilara as we stepped onto a floating sword. This crappy game was too realistic. The high-altitude astral winds blew wrinkles all over my face. Looking back, Ilara's mouth was blown into the shape of a trumpet flower by the wind. The system popped up a main quest, help Ilara gain a foothold in a new guild, the Sanctuary. Isn't this just asking me to find a kindergarten for her? I landed in Skyfall City and randomly found a tavern. My time was almost up and I had to log off. Seeing Ilara's pitiful look, like an abandoned kitten, I I had to make up an excuse. The main body of this exalted one is currently locked in a death match with a great abyssal lord. I am poisoned with a deadly toxin and my life is in critical danger, so I could only descend via projection. Cancer technically counts as a great abyssal lord. Hearing this, Alara's pretty face turned deathly pale. She fell to one knee in midair with a plop, tears falling pitter-patter. My lord, I will definitely become a high-tier alchemist and brew the antidote for you. I told her she couldn't join an alchemy sect. She cultivated fire magic, which clashed with potion making. As soon as the words left my mouth, she smiled miserably at me and without hesitation, severed her own mana circuits, dispersing her entire cultivation on the spot. My lord, since they clash, this junior will just disperse my cultivation. My scalp went numb and my heart suddenly ached. This AI was too brutally well made. That kind of despair and absolute resolve couldn't be faked. With a backhand, I pulled out the ultimate water element mental cultivation method, Tidal Mysteries, and handed it over. She looked up timidly. My lord, are you taking Alara as your apprentice? I cleared my throat. From today onwards, you are this exalted one's orthodox, closed-door direct disciple. Using the tea from the tavern, she respectfully offered me a cup of apprentice initiation tea right there on the spot. I plastered the doorframe with the storm flame runes she had given me for self-defense and directly logged out of the game. Taking off the helmet, the room door in the real world made a thump sound. Opening the door, there were 2 FedEx packages on the floor. Tearing them open, there were 10 storm flame runes radiating magical fluctuations, plus a cup of elven spirit tea sealed with magic, still emitting hot steam. The items from the game had actually been sent to reality. I gulped down that cup of tea. The lifespan countdown prompt box jumped crazily like an EKG and finally stopped steadily. I looked down at my cast-covered broken leg. Tearing it open, the fractured spot had completely healed. I found a razor blade to cut my finger, and the wound scabbed over instantly. I had become a superhuman with extreme regenerative abilities. The black cat hellhound cub in the cardboard box in the corner looked at the magic runes I had pasted on the window and shivered in terror. I didn't have time to care about it. Casually boiled some half-cooked rice, poured it into the cat bowl, grabbed my luggage, and headed straight to the airport. At the airport, as soon as I took 2 steps, I noticed countless pairs of eyes staring dead at me. In the restroom mirror, I was completely reborn. The otherworldly temperament of a magic cultivator fully erupted, and my skin was so good it glowed. Boarding the plane, the flight attendants were so enthusiastic they practically wanted to paste themselves onto me. The girl sitting next to me held it in until her face turned bright red, finally mustering the courage to hand me her phone, wanting to add my Instagram. My brain short-circuited. The immersion was too strong, and I sneered, "Heh, this is an airplane? Riding this exalted one's floating sword is much faster than this." The girl was terrified and silently withdrew her hand. Meanwhile, at Skyfall City Plaza, as soon as Alara, possessing supreme water element affinity, appeared, she immediately caused a sensation across the whole plaza. An all-female reception mage from the Emerald Star Valley, which specialized in alchemy and healing arts, took a step ahead and brought Alara to meet her guild's heir in the luxurious tavern private room. The alluring heir, Elena, asked Alara through a red veil, "Do you have a mentor, male or female?" Alara answered honestly, "I do, a male." The temperature in the private room instantly dropped to the freezing point. "Get out." A violent surge of mana blasted Alara right out the door. The reception mage whispered an apology full of guilt. The young master was hurt by a man in the past, and now she hates men to the bone. No men are allowed within 50 miles of Emerald Star Valley. Even an extremely talented male mage who wants to join must castrate himself. Alara stood blankly on the street. To help cure my poison, she had to go to Emerald Star Valley to study medicine. Just then, a pale-faced male wizard wearing rouge and reeking of a disgusting perfume brought a group of people and blocked her path. "Little sister, you got kicked out by that crazy BTCH? Why not join our joyous sect? We can dual cultivate together and explore the mysteries of magic." One of the 3 great evil cults, the joyous sect. Alara's face was as cold as frost, strictly refusing, her hand already quietly reaching for the magic runes in her storage bag. The pale-faced wizard dropped all pretense, smirking hideously and pressing forward step by step. "Refusing a face given to you, today you must come with me." Just at the moment Alara was about to detonate the runes and fight for her life. "Hold it." A lazy, light shout exploded in the sky. With a loud boom, a pitch-black heavy sword, fully half a meter wide and as tall as a roof eaves, crashed down like a meteor right between Alara and the joyous sex group. A fierce wind mixed with the strong smell of rum swept the area. Leaning diagonally against the heavy sword was a woman wearing a black veil over her face. She sat with her legs crossed, the tip of her torn leather boot swaying slightly. The wine flask in her hand clinked against the sword hilt, splashing 2 drops of wine. She let out an earth-shattering wine burp, her eyes looking down with disdain. The woman in black cast a sidelong glance at the joyous sect members, her drunken, cold sneer echoing down the long street. "We have our eyes on this little chick. Now, all of you, get the FCK out of here." As soon as the words fell, the woman jumped down from the heavy sword. She swayed unsteadily, grabbed that half-meter-wide heavy sword with one hand, and swung it in a full circle like swinging a toy. The pale-faced wizard was so scared he backed up several steps. His face was pale as iron. Seeing that this drunk woman was at the Magus level, he immediately drew his short sword and talked tough. "You dare dare snatch someone from our joyous sect? Today you'll see what you're made of. See what? How about you see what I'm made of? Suddenly, a withered hand resembling Deadwood reached out from the side and firmly grasped the edge of the short sword. The pale-faced wizard turned his head, and at some point, a skinny old man wearing a half-face mask with a mouthful of rotten teeth had stuck close to his side. The old man's palm exerted force, and with a creak, the refined steel short sword was directly crushed into twisted dough. The pale-faced wizard was pinned to the spot by the pressure. He turned his head to call for help, but then completely despaired. In the middle of the street, 3 more men in black had lined up in a neat row, each carrying a bulging burlap sack on their back, while his joyous sect subordinates were already lying on the ground rolling their eyes back. Don't waste time. Grab this last batch and retreat. A 5th man in black jumped down from the attic, his waist hung with various weapons. The pale-faced wizard looked closely. Wasn't that his own Hall Master's Pageant personal sword? His home base got raided. The pale-faced wizard completely gave up, forcing a smile uglier than crying to beg for mercy. The old man bared his rotten teeth and sneered. Magic artifacts, mana crystals, storage bags, even the amulet around your neck, take them all off and throw them on the ground. The old man didn't even spare the magic robe on his body. The pale-faced wizard was stripped down to his underwear, scrambling and flying away to save his life. Alara stood in place, shivering. This group of people in black was even more ruthless than the evil cult, but inexplicably, they lacked murderous intent. The old man came over smiling. Little doll, your water element talent is not bad. Come join our guild. Alara honestly refused. Senior, I want to be an alchemist. I need to go to Emerald Star Valley. The drunk woman let out a burp. Our guild does alchemy too. Alara still wanted to decline, but the man on the attic ripped off his hood and shouted loudly, "Stop pretending. Listen up. We are members of the Firmament Order." The other 4 took off their masks one after another. The drunk woman opposite her revealed a flushed, charming, pretty face. Raising an eyebrow at Alara, "Little sister, we robbed someone else's stuff, and now you know our identity. Therefore, you must come with us." Alara was speechless. These guys blatantly had the guild tags of the Severed Steel Order hanging from their waists, yet they were pretending to be the Firmament Order. Before she could react, her world spun. The drunk woman grabbed her and hoisted her onto the floating sword. The fierce wind howled as they shot up into the sky. Alara subconsciously hugged the woman's waist tightly, and suddenly she wasn't afraid anymore, because she realized that these people, just like her mentor, never turned on their windproof shields when riding flying artifacts. Meanwhile, at Ascension Tower in Skyfall City, Emerald Star Valley's heir, Elena, woke up from unconsciousness holding her head. The floor was covered with mages from various sects, all knocked out by sleeping gas. She reached for her waist. Her storage bag was gone. Her staff was gone. Even her jewelry had been stripped completely clean. Left glaringly on the wall was a huge abbreviation firmament and a provocative ghost face. Elena laughed out of extreme anger. The Firmament Order did this? If the Firmament Order did this, she would eat the incense ash on the floor. Out of everyone, only the people from the Severed Steel Order were missing. Thinking about the character of those poor sword cultivators, it was absolutely those bastards trying to frame others. In the real world, I was sitting in the private car heading to film the reality show. Ever since I drank the spirit tea Alara gave me, my broken bone cancer leg completely healed overnight, and even a razor cut on my finger would scab instantly. Not only could I walk on the ground, but my physical fitness had undergone a terrifying mutation. My skin was so good it glowed, and my whole body exuded an otherworldly, sacred aura. On the way, the private car driver repeated the same sentence 3 times. "Bro, you look f***ing awesome." He slapped his thigh wildly. "I've driven hundreds of celebrities, and I've never seen anyone as handsome as you. Pure natural beauty that instantly kills them. With your aura, you're a living holy knight descending. That top-tier fresh meat idol, Zach, who's recording the show with you tonight, is just trash compared to you. But you gotta keep a low profile. He has a huge temper. Don't get into conflict with him." I sneered inwardly. I'm a cancer patient who could drop dead at any moment. Why would I get into a conflict with an actor? If he dares to start trouble, it'll teach him how to behave in minutes. At the foot of Blackwood Mountain, the Wilderness Ventures production crew, the top-tier idol Zach, made his grand finale entrance surrounded by a group of bodyguards. While everyone else was seriously preparing their night hiking gear, he arrived right on the dot and immediately started walking an invisible runway and striking poses for the cameras. "Yo, I'm Zach, I'm super handsome, I look super handsome playing basketball, and I look super handsome climbing mountains." The live stream chat was instantly spammed by his brainless fans, filled with "Brother is so handsome and brother works so hard." The director was jumping up and down with anxiety. The show started streaming at 9 p.m., and only I, the mystery guest, hadn't arrived yet. Zach seized the opportunity and spoke sarcastically to the camera. "I heard there's a mystery guest, making so many of us wait for just him. Such a big shot. I wonder if he's as handsome as me?" The brainless fans immediately followed suit and flamed wildly. "What kind of thing deserves to make brother wait?" Just as the words fell, "Excuse me, is this the Wilderness Ventures production team?" From the edge of the cliff, my clear voice rang out. All the cameras instantly turned. The spotlight hit my face, a shiny bald head, leaning on my crutch with both hands. I stood in the mountain wind. Half of my face was bathed in the moonlight, like a holy priest. The other half was hidden in the shadows, exuding an abyssal demonic charm. The whole place went dead silent. Only one word remained in the minds of everyone in the production crew: handsome. Earth-shatteringly handsome. The live stream chat paused paused for a second, and then was completely washed anew. Holy SHT, who is this mystery guest? He's too fking handsome. I announced my defection. This bald brother is 10,000 times more handsome than Zack. This aura is incredible. Pure, natural god-tier face. The director's eyes lit up, and he rushed over to shake my hand as if looking at a cash cow. Zack's face turned pale as iron. Seeing himself being marginalized, he immediately pointed at my crutch and started making trouble. Director, we are going to night hike Blackwood Mountain next. Taking a crippled person with us? Are you expecting us to accompany him hiking until tomorrow afternoon? I'm not looking down on the disabled, but with a body like that, he should lie at home, not come here to leech off a variety show's traffic. As soon as this was said, everyone was shocked. The netizens in the stream were stunned. This EQ was simply in the negatives. I didn't get angry at all and smiled freely at the camera. You're right, I am indeed a burden. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Silas, a late-stage bone cancer patient whose life is on a countdown. This might be my only chance in this life to summit Blackwood Mountain. Thank you all for witnessing my final journey. I am on my way. The wind blew across the mountain path. A few female makeup artists covered their mouths and started crying on the spot. Stella, the sweet girl starlet in the same group, had red rims around her eyes. The chat completely exploded with a unified stream of tearing up, respect, and Zack get out of the entertainment circle. Zack's manager was going crazy backstage, frantically sending messages ordering Zack to apologize to me. Zack gritted his teeth in anger. I, a dignified top-tier idol, apologized to a cripple. He firmly believed I was faking my illness to leech traffic and swore to completely tear off my disguise during the hike. The night hike began. To fight for screen time, Zack volunteered to lead the team. He sped up his pace, leading the main group sprinting on the pitch-black, steep mountain path, just to see me, the cripple, exhaust my stamina and show my true colors. The male celebrities traveling with us were panting heavily like dogs from exhaustion. Zack stopped, turned around sweating profusely, and mocked. Can you two grown men handle it or not? Look at Silas. A crippled person hasn't even broken a single drop of sweat and is following closely behind. His move was extremely venomous, praising me on the surface, but actually trying to guide everyone into suspecting I was faking my illness. Sure enough, everyone turned to look at me. I leaned on my crutch, my face calm and my heartbeat steady. Are you kidding me? Inside my body is the mutated potential from having my muscles and marrow cleansed by the spirit tea. I could hear the cancer cells partying in my body, let alone climbing a mountain. Right now I feel like I could punch a bull to death. Facing their doubts, I just gave a straightforward, toothy smile. Stella's eyes were full of heartache, convinced that I was enduring agonizing pain just so I wouldn't hold everyone back. Right then, to create some show effect, the director spoke with feigned mystery. Everyone be careful. There is a legend on Blackwood Mountain about the shadow ambush wolf. When you hike at night, a giant wolf will stand up on its hind legs and tap your shoulder. The moment you turn your head, it bites your head off in one gulp. Zack sneered disdainfully. I'm 1.9 meters tall. What kind of wolf could tap my shoulder? Standing up to 2.5 meters? You gotta be kidding me. Before his words faded, a mournful wolf howl echoed through the valley. The surroundings instantly fell dead silent. Zack's entire body stiffened, feeling his shoulders suddenly grow heavy, as a pair of heavy claws rested firmly on his shoulders. He was so scared he scrambled and tumbled, doing a faceplant as he rolled back into the crowd. Everyone shined their flashlights and collectively gasped. A mutated giant wolf, over 2.5 meters long, covered in steel needle-like black fur, was standing upright on the mountain path. Its head was grotesquely large, its mouth split open wide enough to fit a tire, and its eerie green eyeballs stared dead at us as drool dripped down constantly. The whole crew was scared out of their minds. I was the only one who blurted out, "Wow, you really can't blame me for lacking manners." This thing looked too out of place. Compared to the oppressive aura of the demigod-old monsters in the game, this mutated wolf looked like a deformed freak that drank nuclear wastewater, even looking a bit comical. The guide uncle shouted in terror, "Don't run, slowly back up to the jeeps." Zack was shoved by a female starlet. "Aren't you a Templar Knight apprentice? Go beat it up." Zack broke down screaming on the spot. "Study my ass. You want me to fight a wolf? Are you crazy or am I crazy?" His screaming instantly enraged the giant wolf. The wolf demon dropped to all fours and turned into a black shadow, lunging ferociously. The crowd instantly scattered. The giant wolf howled at the sky, and surprisingly, a second wolf leaped out from the bushes. The main crew scrambled and rushed toward the jeeps, while me, Stella, and the main cameraman had our retreat path completely cut off. Stella closed her eyes in despair, and the cameraman trembled while holding his equipment. The netizens in the stream frantically called the police. I alone remained steady as an old dog. I stepped forward, blocking the two of them, and dropped into a horse stance. I raised my crutch with both hands, my eyes full of disdain, and even extended my left hand to provocatively crook my finger at the giant wolf. To think that I, Grand Mentor Silas, cleaved the doors of the firmament order with a single sword strike, and a mere deformed wolf dares to bare its teeth at this exalted one. The giant wolf roared and lunged for the kill. I swung my crutch and smashed it down with the momentum of a sword. Crack! The crutch snapped snapped into 2 pieces on the spot. The scene was extremely awkward for a moment. I turned back and forced a tragic, miserable smile at Stella. "Stop watching. Wind's too strong. Run for it." The 3 of us bolted. The giant wolf was stunned for a second by my strike, then, enraged out of shame, opened its bloody maw and lunged toward my neck. In a split second, I stepped on empty air, tripping on a rock. Losing my balance, I fell heavily backward onto my back. The magic runes in my coat spilled all over the ground with a rustle. At the moment of losing balance, my right foot instinctively kicked backward. Crack! This heavy, powerful blind kick landed squarely on the giant wolf's jaw. The giant wolf didn't even have time to let out a yelp. Its lower jaw shattered on the spot, and it was directly blasted away by this terrifying, immense force, smashing through several trees as it rolled into the bushes. Grimacing in pain, Stella and the cameraman quickly turned back, hoisted me up, and we sprinted, hiding in an abandoned ranger's log cabin. I sat spread-eagled at the door of the cabin, be ready to jump out the window at any moment. With this worthless life of mine, I will defend this door to the death and buy you a sliver of hope for survival. Stella was moved to tears, and the dedicated cameraman kept the lens focused right on my face. Meanwhile, in the bushes, the mutated wolf with the shattered jaw unsteadily crawled up. The intense pain completely triggered its demonic nature. Its body inflated like a balloon again, its fur stood on end, and its eerie green eyes grew bloodshot. It locked onto my scent, swearing to tear me to pieces. It sprinted out, turning into a flash of lightning, and accurately stepped right onto the magic rune I had dropped. A whoop, boom! A thunderclap from the flat ground. Blinding thunder struck down out of nowhere. 5 minutes later, a petite young girl wearing a school uniform and carrying a spear appeared next to the lightning crater. Her name was Trinity, a bronze-rank demon hunter hiding in the civilian world. She had originally been hunting the other giant wolf. Over by the jeeps, Zach's leg had already been crushed by a bite, turning him into a complete cripple, and the giant wolf was headshot by her. At this moment, looking at the charred wolf corpse with a shattered jaw in the crater, she gasped, shattering the jaw with one blow and drawing heavenly thunder for a fatal blast. This is definitely the work of a silver rank or higher big shot. She picked up a Cinnabar Thunderfire rune from the ashes. Feeling the terrifying, righteous arcane energy radiating from it, her hands trembled in fear. Even the strongest demon hunter in the Americas couldn't draw a rune of this caliber. Following the footprints, she found her way to the log cabin and pushed the door open. She saw me, the female college student, and the cameraman. To hide her identity, she intentionally acted like a frightened middle schooler. "Oh my god, I'm so scared. There's a big bad wolf outside." I stared dead at that charred rune paper in her hand, recognizing at a glance that it was the one Alara had drawn for me. I pointed. "Little girl, where did you get that rune?" Trinity's heart skipped a beat, pretending to be calm. "What rune?" "This is my tarot card bookmark. Just making things up." "Huh?" I didn't bother arguing, reached into my windbreaker pocket, pulled out another 5 identical Thunderfire runes, and slapped them in my hand. "Bullshit. This thing is clearly mine. Look, I've got a whole stack here." Trinity's brain buzzed, her eyes practically popping out of her head. The Blackwood Mountain incident sent shockwaves across the internet. Zach's persona completely collapsed, and he was sent to the hospital terrified out of his mind. Stella gained fame for her kindness. As for me, because of the footage showing me keeping a completely straight face while facing the wolf demon, even attempting to fight it with a broken crutch, I was directly crowned the nation's #1 tough guy. My bald tough guy reaction memes went viral. Trinity locked her sights entirely on me. On the way down the mountain, she frantically used demon hunter code words to test me. "Winter is coming." I replied, "Wear more long johns." "The long night is boundless." I replied, "I have a flashlight." Seeing my pure, foolishly innocent look, she couldn't figure out at all whether I was a max-level boss pretending to be a noob or just an ordinary person who stumbled upon a cheat. To investigate my background, she spent a fortune and booked the hotel room right next to mine, preparing for long-term surveillance. And I had absolutely no mind to care about her. After tossing and turning all night giving statements, I returned to the hotel and couldn't wait to plug in my phone and log into the game. Last night, Alara was taken away by those people in black. They said they were going to the Firmament Order, but it was obviously just an excuse to send her to Emerald Star Valley. Emerald Star Valley, a legendary land of tenderness full of top-tier female doctors. My precious apprentice practically hit the jackpot this Tamiya massive win. The screen lit up. No singing birds or fragrant flowers, no flocks of fairies. Everywhere you looked, the ground was covered in broken bricks and tiles, and a few shattered pillars were tottering. A gust of eerie wind blew by, making a half-broken door creak. The system ruthlessly popped up a line of huge text. "Your digital girlfriend, Alara, has joined the Guild's Severed Steel Order." Severed Steel Order, the poorest guild on the continent of Ethelgard, bar none. I stared wide-eyed at the ruins in front of me that looked like a scrapyard, my brain buzzing. "Where the FCK did you send me? This is the poorest guild. Where is the Eye of Truth? Get your ass out here. I want to apply for a disability refund." But this little girl had a good temper and didn't complain at all. She was brought to the guild plaza by Pavilion Master Balin. This old man stroked his beard and laughed loudly, saying they pretended to be the Firmament Order before just to rob people and lay low. Then he excitedly discussed with a few elders about going to the Middle-earth ruins next month to rob again. Alara listened with dark lines forming on her forehead. But these old foxes weren't blind. Alara's top-tier water elemental element talent combined with her perfect Starcy aptitude made their eyes turn green with greed instantly. In order to stick to her dream of becoming an alchemist, Alara absolutely refused to choose a sword cultivation mountain gate and ran to the 6th peak, which only had a single stone monument. Finally, she couldn't help but ask Balin if he knew a swordsman named Silas. This old fox's eyes rolled, and he just started making empty promises. He said I was the first-generation Grand Mentor of the Order, currently out of town slaying demons, and told her to cultivate diligently and wait for me to return. Alara actually believed it, happily following her senior sister to pick a residence. This severed steel order specialized in sleeping wherever they dropped. Walking along, Alara saw people sunbathing on the backs of giant tortoises, and others sleeping by waterfalls. They were slacking off to the absolute extreme. She picked and chose, finally selecting the poorest stone hut on the mountain peak. In reality, I was sitting on the sofa gnawing on fried chicken, listening to Alara's sweet report from my phone. Mentor, Alara misses you very much. I didn't go to Emerald Star Valley. That air doesn't like men. But I joined the Severed Steel Order where you used to be. The Pavilion Master even said you are the ancient Grand Mentor. I was totally confused. Severed Steel Order? Grand Mentor? This old geezer can really bullshit. But playing along is fine too. Saves me the trouble of explaining. But Emerald Star Valley dared to kick out my disciple? He'll remember this grudge, and sooner or later, it'll help her get payback. Just then, a top-up prompt box popped up on the screen. Your digital girlfriend's residence is too dilapidated. Top up 10 to give your girlfriend a cozy home. I sneered. A mere 10 bucks? Who are you looking down on? Even if I die, I'll die with prestige. Top up. Clicking open the interface, good lord, a permanent basic mana array was 1,500. Clearing a plot of magical spirit field was 800. Upgrading the stone hut was 150. And there was even a monster pen. Isn't this just a Reskin Stardew Valley? How could I tolerate this? I started tapping madly. Kurjin spending money like crazy. Mana array. Arranged. Black armor shield to protect Alara's safety. Absolutely arranged. Upgraded her stone hut directly to level 2. Golden lights flashed consecutively, and Alara's dilapidated stone hut instantly turned into a beautifully decorated large wooden cabin, with blue bricks and gray tiles, 2 extra side rooms, and even a wooden bathtub and a cooking stove completely arranged. In the game, Alara was so terrified her legs went soft. She stood by the bed, her small hands tightly gripping the hem of her skirt. Her face was as red as dripping blood, and she begged in a trembling voice, Mentor, that's enough. It's okay. It's too much. When a girl says she doesn't want it, she wants it. The farm others have, my disciple must have too. With a backhand, I smashed down 10 plots of magical spirit fields for her. With a loud rumble, the barren land in front of the door churned, and 10 plots of fertile land radiating magical brilliance instantly formed. Watching her kneel desperately in front of the spirit fields, muttering it's over, I'm going to be famous, I closed the interface in satisfaction. I also casually spent $3 to buy a discounted sexy silk nightgown and airdropped it directly onto her bed. Ding. Main quest completed. Rewards delivered. 1 9 luminance elf grass. 1 pot of Gaia divine soil. At the same time, a new quest triggered. 30 days until the Middle-earth Ruins instance opens. Alara's current survival rate is 0. Please improve it as soon as possible. A muffled sound of a delivery hitting the ground came from outside the door. I opened the door to look, and there was a pile of dirty cardboard boxes on the floor. Tearing it open, there was a pot of multicolored dirt that looked like industrial waste, with a wilted, drooping weed stuck in it. Not believing it, I scanned it with an image recognition app. Conclusion: grass a type of plant. I swear, game developer, get out here. Who are you trying to fool with a pot of weeds? At the bottom of the box was a rune, inscribed with the Judgment Thunder rune, with a note saying to paste it on the flower pot to guard against gluttonous magical beasts. I casually slapped it on and placed the flower pot on the windowsill. I turned around to go to the kitchen to make breakfast. What I didn't know was that the black cat Grim, the stray I picked up on the sofa, was practically drooling rivers. Its eyes were locked dead onto that pot of grass. Just as it took a half step closer, the lightning rune instantly erupted with terrifying electric arcs. A heaven-destroying, earth-shattering pressure locked onto it completely. Grim was so scared it scrambled back onto the sofa, trembling all over. This hellhound muttered inwardly, what kind of realm is this big shot at, to even protect a pot of weeds with divine thunder? If I dare touch it, I'd be turned to ash on the spot. While eating breakfast, I casually scrolled through TikTok. The news was broadcasting the incident of the Blackwood Mountain giant wolf attacking tourists. A bunch of experts were talking nonsense on TV, saying it was a mutated coyote caused by nuclear pollution, with extremely low aggressiveness. Low aggressiveness my ass. It tore apart a jeep like a toy. I stared fixedly at the wolf corpse blasted into a charred lump on the screen, then pulled out the few crumpled Stormflame runes from my pocket. The state of that wolf's body from that day wasn't right. If it was struck by lightning, the severe injury should be on its back. But the wolf in the video had its left leg completely blown to pieces, just like it stepped on a landmine. A flash of inspiration hit my brain, and my blood instantly boiled. That wolf wasn't beaten to death by me with a stick at all. It was blown up by the rune I dropped while running away. Once I figured this out, I grabbed the runes, threw on a jacket, and rushed straight out the door. I'm going to test the runes. Right after I left, a a head popped out from outside the hallway window. The female demon hunter from room 419, Trinity, was sticking to the wall like a gecko. Waiting for me to leave, she immediately flipped through my window. As soon as she looked up, she locked onto the pot of grass on the windowsill. With her demon hunter eyesight, she actually saw that within the veins of the grass leaves, patterns of a cloud-topped divine temple were faintly outlined. Every stroke was naturally formed, exuding terrifying magic. Just as she was caught between surprise and suspicion, a low growl suppressing murderous intent exploded by her ear. A black cat had appeared at the edge of the windowsill at some unknown moment. Grim stared dead at her, that look exactly like looking at a corpse. It raised its paw and slapped fiercely through the air. Boom! A ring of black ripples exploded. Trinity didn't even have time to let out a scream before she was instantly sent flying by this terrifying magical force, smashing headfirst into the awning downstairs, instantly breaking 3 ribs. She forced herself up, enduring the agonizing pain, her eyes full of terror. This was absolutely no ordinary mutated creature. Just relying on magic alone was enough to suppress her to the point of immobility. She had to report to the Demon Hunter Guild immediately. Grim snorted coldly, cast a fearful glance at the lightning rune, and shrank back to the sofa to pretend to be a dumb cat. Meanwhile, I stood by a garbage dump outside the neighborhood. Holding a storm flame rune in my hand, I held my breath, focused my mind, and fiercely threw it forward. Hurry like the law. Avada Kedavra. Smack. The rune flew half a meter and fell to the ground. I picked it up and tried again. Go. Hadouken. Fire in the hole. All failed. This rune was like waste paper. I couldn't throw it out at all. I sighed. Could it be that this thing has to lock onto a living creature? I turned and went to the plaza and happened to see old Arthur practicing swordsmanship. Seeing me, his eyes lit up, and he insisted on showing me a set of longsword master defense arts. After finishing the set, the old man smugly asked me how it was. I said it was pretty good, like chopping vegetables. The old man wasn't happy, feeling that I was brushing him off. He shoved a practice wooden sword into my hand and told me to show off a couple of moves. I gripped the hilt and closed my eyes. An unbelievable thing happened. The moves from the game's Astral Blade Codex were actually deeply carved into my brain like muscle memory. My body moved, completing the first 12 chapters as smooth as flowing water. Thrust, flick, sweep, chop, without a single trace of sluggishness. With the flip of my wrist, the sword wind howled, as if a peerless knight had possessed my body. Sheathing the sword, left hand holding the scabbard, right hand on the hilt, I abruptly opened my eyes. Starlight breaks the dawn to slay the night demon. A single sword's frost chills the 9 realms. Dawn breaks the nightmare. My blade chills the 9 realms. The wooden sword unsheathed, drawing a dazzling, snow-white arc of light in midair. The arc shattered into pieces, exactly like a blooming starburst. The sword returned to its place with a crisp sound. Old Arthur stood with his mouth open, looking like he had been struck by lightning, unable to squeeze out a single word for a long time. I looked at the completely still tree branches, shook my head, shoved the wooden sword back into his arms, and sighed. Not good enough, didn't even chop off a single branch. I'm out, going to buy groceries. I turned around and left, heading straight to the vegetable market to buy a fish. Right after I left, old Arthur trembling walked up to the large oak tree next to him. On the thick trunk, there was shockingly a hair-thin, piercing sword mark. This was a solid century-old tree, yet it was actually pierced by sword key fired from an unsharpened wooden sword. He shakily pulled out his phone and called the Demon Hunter Guild. Briggs, come quick. I met a monster who can shoot sword key. Captain Briggs rushed over hurriedly. Looking at the sword mark on the trunk, his face turned green. This was at least silver rank strength or above. Their local Demon Hunter Guild was currently suffering heavy casualties, without a single person who could shoot decent sword key. Old Arthur held Briggs' hands, his eyes red, insisting that he must find a way to pull me into the guild. I returned home carrying a 10-pound carp. Pressing the fish onto the cutting board, I raised the rune tide to the drying rack, a precaution to prevent blowing off my own hand. Abyssal monster, die. Smack. The rune slapped hard onto the fish's body. The big carp flipped over, its large tail violently swinging, and smacked me right across the face. Nothing happened. I fell silent. This magic is indeed fake. I really can't use the runes. I must infuse mana to activate them. But where would I get mana? I'm just a tumor Superman altered by cancer cells. Disheartened, I threw the big carp into the basin on the windowsill. The look the black cat Grim on the sofa gave me completely changed. Its fur stood on end, feeling that I was unfathomably deep. Knowing full well that runes require mana to activate, yet deliberately doing this, I was absolutely baiting it to expose its identity. This life is unlivable. I was too lazy to pay attention to this neurotic cat and clicked open the game. The Middle-earth ruins are opening soon, and Alara's survival rate is still 0. I have to hurry up and teach her swordplay. The screen lit up. Alara had actually changed into that hot silk nightgown I bought. The size was just right. The white gauze skirt clung tightly to her body, revealing a large expanse of snow-white back. The fabric around her waist and hips gradually tightened, and there was a slit at the base of her thigh. In the hazy candlelight, she knelt on the bed with her hands on her knees. Her face was flushed like spilled apple cider, stray hairs fell past her temples, and her collarbones were clearly visible. She tilted her flushed little face up, looking at me with watery eyes, full of anticipation. Mentor, you can just shove the whole cultivation method into me all at once. I can take it. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. These lines, this figure. I swallowed hard. Who could withstand this? I forced myself to be calm. Ahem, step by step. Today I will first teach you the first 12 chapters of the Astral Blade Codex. As soon as the words fell, the game screen jumped. Alara's vision blurred, and she entered a dim, isolated space. Standing in front of her was exactly my game character, the white-clothed, sword-bearing, snow-haired magic swordsman. I pressed an interaction button. The sword sovereign on the screen walked right up to her and lightly tapped her head with a staff. Pay attention in class. Alara's little face instantly blushed entirely red. For the next full 12 hours, she practiced desperately. This little girl had extremely high comprehension, and she danced the 12 sword chapters with heroic elegance. By the end of practice, she was dripping with fragrant sweat, the sheer nightgown clinging tightly to her body, her breathing rapid, and her cheeks flushed. Propping herself up with the sword, she looked at me eagerly and asked, "Mentor, how is Alara's practice? Your disciple is dull and took half a day to just get an initial glimpse of the doorway. How long did it take you back then?" My old face flushed, and I casually made up a lie. Ahem, back then, as your master, took me 10 minutes. Alara's eyes were full of little stars, worshipping me to death. The next day, the severed steel order completely blew up. Suin brought dwarven strong liquor to find Alara, originally thinking she was living in a broken stone hut on the mountain peak. As a result, when he took a look, he was utterly dumbfounded. Where was the stone hut? Blue bricks and gray tiles, a flowing fountain, and next to it were 10 plots of top-tier spirit fields emitting dense magical energy. Not daring to disturb her, Suin set up a concealment array and ran straight back to the guild to call for people. Not long after, as soon as Alara pushed open the window, she was stunned on the spot. The sky was full of sword apprentices riding colorful mana hoverboards, and even Pavilion Master Balin and the elders had arrived. Terrified, Alara shrank back into the house and pressed firmly against the door. She thought this bunch of poor sword cultivators were coming to rob her house and spirit fields. Eldest senior sister Freya laughed loudly outside. "Junior sister, stop hiding. The house was made by your mentor, right?" Balin was also curious about what kind of background this mentor had to open up 10 top-tier farm plots in half a day. Blushing, Alara opened the door, stammering while guarding the doorframe. As a result, instead of robbing, this group of sword cultivators lined up to start giving gifts. Freya gave a bag of magic herb seeds, Suin gave strong liquor, and Duan Feng directly threw over a heavy, dark sword box that could nourish sword blades. In a short while, life-saving magic potions, throwing darts, magic scrolls, and even a griffin egg were stuffed into Alara's arms, the gifts piling up like a small mountain. Alara was completely confused. Freya told her that this was a tradition of the order. The path of a swordsman is too difficult, and every apprentice is the flesh off the guild's heart. They absolutely will not let any junior brother or sister die prematurely along the way. Alara tightly grasped her senior sister's hands, swearing that she would definitely survive. Seeing this scene, even through the screen, I felt that this crappy guild was quite warm and human. In reality, I had already slept like a log. However, the black cat Grim on the windowsill quietly opened its golden vertical pupils, radiating terrifying abyssal aura. It stared dead at the half-dead big carp in the water basin, sneered, and stretched out a cat paw to press on the carp's forehead, forcing a drop of demon blood to seep into the fish's head. This sneaky bastard thought I was a peerless big shot hiding my cultivation, and afraid of its identity as an abyssal lord being exposed, it simply enlightened this carp. As long as the carp turned into a sea monster, it could act as a meat shield for it. On the other side, at the Demon Hunter Guild, Trinity, the female demon hunter, dragging a body with 3 broken ribs, reported to Captain Briggs. She said that not only were there authentic divine runes in my house, but a terrifying monster of high rank or above also lived there. Hearing this, Briggs' face turned green. Their guild currently didn't even have anyone who could fight. Running into this kind of monster was just throwing away lives. He threw out the official newly developed breathing technique as bait, fooling Trinity into continuing to go back and keep an eye on me, promising her a promotion as long as she stalled until headquarters sent an expert. Hearing there was an inner cultivation method to get, this silly girl immediately agreed, turned around, and went to accept a quest to clear out wandering goblins. Vision cut back to the game. Alara went to attend the guild's morning class, and after finishing, ran to find Pavilion Master Balin, who was still sleeping in a tree. With a plop, she knelt on one knee. "Pavilion Master, my mentor Silas is poisoned with a strange toxin and his life is in danger. Since he is the ancient grand mentor of the order, I beg the Pavilion Master to save him." Balin was petrified on the spot. He had just made up a random story before to make Alara cultivate diligently. Where did the order ever have an ancient mentor named Silas? But looking at Alara's anxious appearance, he couldn't just expose his lie, his eyes rolling as a plan formed in his mind. Alara, this exalted one's memory might be a bit blurry. Come, let's go to the Holy Relic exhibition room to check the roster. Balin's calculations were very shrewd. As long as Silas' name couldn't be found in the exhibition room, He could logically say he was old and confused and remembered wrong, brushing off this troublesome matter. Arriving at the dilapidated exhibition room, Elara was so anxious her eyes were red, carefully searching through the nameplates one by one. Balin leisurely tried to persuade her from the side. If you can't find it, forget it. Maybe I really remembered it wrong. Just as the words fell, Elara hugged a bronze plate and shouted excitedly, "Found it! Pavilion Master, I found Mentor's name." Balin's brain buzzed, and he rushed over to look. That nameplate was placed on the highest tier, and written on it was Sisamethings. The middle letter was actually worn off. This fking works too. Balin hurriedly ran out to ask the guarding old knight. The old knight frowned, and with a backhand drew his scabbard and smacked Balin. That is the nameplate of the first-generation Holy Sword ancestor. Back then, it was scratched by an abyssal evil dragon, which is why it's missing a letter. He even left words on the holy monument. Twilight of the gods, only the sword is eternal. Balin's vision went black, almost fainting. A randomly told lie actually turned out to be solid truth. Elara's mentor wasn't some supreme elder. He was the founding patriarch of the order. The gold content of this was simply breaking through the heavens. Balin instantly changed his tune, patting his chest and laying down harsh words. Even if we have to smash our pots and sell our iron, bankrupting ourselves, my severed steel order will save the ancestor. Elara felt relieved in her heart, but she didn't stay idle either. She turned around and ran to the Grand Library to look for the antidote prescription. When the old Grand Magus guarding the library heard Elara was the ancestor's disciple, without a second word, he directly separated his spiritual sense, flipped through over 300,000 volumes of books, and finally found a sacred tome of alchemy on the 5th floor. However, there was a rule for taking books. You must pass the sword heart trial on the 5th floor and defeat an illusion of yourself at the same cultivation level. The old Grand Magus originally thought Elara would have to fight bitterly inside for several hours. As a result, before he even finished speaking, with a crack, the barrier shattered. Elara, with a pale little face, walked right out carrying her sword. The old Grand Magus was completely dumbfounded. This little girl is a top-tier romantic fanatic. Her heart was entirely filled with me. The trial phantom dared to say she couldn't save her mentor, so she drew her sword and instantly killed the phantom. God's block, kill the gods. Buddha's block, kill the Buddhas. She successfully obtained the rubbing of the recipe that recorded the 100 herbs purification magic potion. In the real world, early the next morning, I groggily heard 2 loud thump-thump sounds from outside the door. Thinking a package had arrived, I yanked the door open. Holy SHT. A strong smell of blood rushed straight to my head. A long trail of blood dragged across the hallway. Trinity, the female demon hunter who went to kill wandering goblins last night, was covered in blood, her flesh rolling open, and collapsed at my doorstep on the verge of death. 3 zeros? How did you get into this ghost-like state? I was startled and quickly carried her inside, placing her on the sofa. If she died in the hallway, I wouldn't be able to explain it clearly even if I was covered in mouths. I immediately dialed 911. The dispatcher on the phone told me to start CPR first. Without another word, I placed my hands on her chest and pressed down hard. Crack, a crisp sound. Trinity spat a mouthful of old blood directly onto the ceiling. I froze on the spot. When did my tumor Superman strength become so huge? One press directly broke 3 of her ribs. I had no choice. Treat a dead horse as a living horse doctor. I pulled out the set of mithril needles given by the system and started pricking her acupoints like crazy. Stopping bleeding, growing bones, the movement so fast I couldn't even see them clearly myself. Watching this scene from the corner, the cat demon Grimm's soul almost flew out of its body. It thought this heavily injured female demon hunter was my subordinate. A big shot personally applying needles to save someone this background is absolutely terrifying. To protect itself, Grimm charged straight to the sofa and started licking Trinity's face frantically, showing extreme favor. Trinity had just been revived by my needles. Upon opening her eyes, she saw a gigantic black cat face looming over her. That terrifying aura of an ancient magical beast washed over her face. Her eyes rolled back, and she almost died from sheer terror on the spot again. Luckily, the ambulance arrived in time and carried her down. I let out a long breath, thinking it was over. But not long after, a few police officers showed up at my door. A room full of blood, plus a severely injured minor girl. I was fking handcuffed right away and taken back to the interrogation room. Officer, listen to me explain. I really don't know her that well. I took off her jacket to apply acupuncture to save her. I defended myself frantically in the interrogation room. The police officer gave me a look as if viewing a pervert, not believing a word. Just then, the door to the interrogation room was pushed open. That bearded demon hunter captain, Briggs, walked in. He pulled out an FBI badge, sent the police away, and took over the case. As soon as this old fox walked in, his gaze swept over me back and forth like a scanner. He had been around the perimeter of my house, knew that I had authentic runes pasted on my doors and windows, and that a large magical beast was hidden inside. He concluded that I was absolutely not an ordinary person. Mr. Silas, I completely believe that you are innocent. Briggs sat down with a smiling face. Really? Then can you give me back my phone? I looked at him eagerly. Not seeing my baby Elara for half a day, my whole body felt uncomfortable. Briggs handed me the phone. I couldn't wait to light up the screen and swipe frantically. But in Briggs' eyes, me pointing and tapping at a pitch-black screen was simply bizarre in the extreme. In this magic-revived world, there was only one possibility. This was a companion holy relic bound to its master. Briggs' gaze focused, his body leaning forward slightly, his tone becoming probing and dangerous. Brother Silas, this phone of yours looks quite old. Could you, let me take a look at it? Look at the phone? I blinked, directly exited the game, and handed the phone over. It's just a beat-up iPhone anyway, check whatever. Briggs took the phone and casually swiped a few times. He stared at the screen, his expression becoming extremely strange. In his eyes, this phone screen was like it was shrouded in a thick gray fog. Nothing could be seen clearly. Yet just now, I was staring at this black brick with great interest. This confirmed it. This phone was absolutely my companion holy relic. Briggs' heart had already whipped up monstrous waves, but on the surface, he remained steady as an old dog, returning the phone to me and beginning to fish for information. Brother Silas, that rune pasted on your door is quite interesting. Could you sell me one? He smiled like an old fox. Hearing this, I became alert, wanting to buy a piece of scrap paper. This Briggs is absolutely no police superior. I deliberately kicked the ball back. You name a price? $1,000? 10,000? 15,000? Briggs grew anxious and directly called out an absurdly high number. Deal. I instantly pulled out my Venmo receiving QR code, and with a backhand, slapped a crumpled Stormflame rune into his hand. Briggs' hand trembled in fear, terrified that this thing would detonate on the spot. He left a contact address disguised as a bar and left in a hurry. Returning to the hotel, I strung all the clues together and finally came to a sudden realization. This world had mutated. Those so-called mutated wild beasts were fundamentally abyssal monsters. Trinity and Briggs were both members of the Demon Hunter Guild, and I was not some tumor Superman altered by cancer cells at all. Because of the game in my phone, I had become an awakened. Just as I was pondering, the terrified scream of the cleaning lady suddenly came from outside the door. Pushing the door open to look, a black-furred giant rat the size of a calf appeared in the hallway. This monster had obviously followed Trinity's blood trail here. Its blood-red eyes locked dead onto me, opened its bloody maw, and lunged over like a black gust of wind. I had no time to react at all, subconsciously raising my hand to block. However, the expected bite never happened. This giant rat actually slammed on the brakes 2 meters in front of me, trembling all over, and a puddle of yellow liquid even leaked out from beneath it. It was afraid of me, or rather, it was afraid of the storage box next to me with the magic rune pasted on it. Just this? Today, this exalted one will let you cosplay Mickey Mouse. I sneered, pulled out a rune, and slapped it straight at its forehead. Boom! A terrifying flash of lightning instantly pierced through the entire hallway. The shockwave from the explosion tore the doors 50 meters away into pieces. Briggs, who had just arrived, was so terrified he rolled on the ground. The thick smoke dispersed. That giant rat had already been blasted into flying ash. As for me, apart from the hand holding the rune being slightly blackened by smoke, I was actually completely unharmed. It turns out, I'm not a tumor Superman, I'm the lightning Dharma King. Watching this scene, Briggs was completely convinced. He pulled me to the side of the street and laid out the truth of the world to me. The Abyss had revived, and the Demon Hunter Guild was established. He concluded that my phone was a companion holy relic that could create runes. Creating something out of nothing often requires paying a tragic price. Silas, to create this kind of rune, what is the price you pay? Briggs stared dead at me. My heart tightened. If I say there's no price, wouldn't I become a walking money printer, a human health potion? What if I get caught and sliced open for research? I rolled up my pant leg, revealing those densely packed osteosarcoma lumps. The price is my lifespan. For every rune I make, my cancer worsens by a fraction. The doctor said I have at most 1 month left to live. Briggs' brain buzzed, his face full of guilt, almost slapping himself. He, a dignified demon hunter captain, actually used $15,000 to trick a dying man out of a life-saving rune. With red rims around his eyes, he earnestly urged me to join the Demon Hunter Guild, saying they had an inner cultivation breathing technique there, as well as healing-type priests, and even started talking to me about the noble mission of protecting humanity. I looked at the bustling street under the sunlight and calmly shook my head. Officer, my parents died in a fire, and by the time the insurance money reached my hands, only $2,000 were left. I was diagnosed with late-stage bone cancer, and the hospital wouldn't treat me without money. My ex-girlfriend despised me for being poor and short-lived and directly cuckolded me. This world didn't embrace me when I was most desperate. Now you want me to go protect it? I think it's disgusting. Briggs fell silent. Dragging my suitcase, I merged into the crowd without looking back. However, I promised him that even if I didn't join the guild, taking some bounties as a civilian to kill monsters and earn some extra cash was still acceptable. Returning to my newly rented apartment, I couldn't wait to open the game. After the harsh beatings of reality, I found that my digital girlfriend was still the most healing. On the screen, Ilara excitedly reported her day's experiences to me. She ran to find the pavilion master for help, and Balin originally wanted to expose me in the exhibition room, but as a result, he actually found the nameplate of Sisamethings. Now it was great. I was directly upgraded from Grand Mentor to the first-generation ancestor of the Order. Balin made the call on the spot, ready to smash pots and sell iron to save me. Ilara ran to the library and got the prescription for the 100 Herbs Purification Magic Potion. The elder in the greenhouse took a look and found that 2 ancient primary ingredients were missing: Dragon Bloodvine and Deep Sea Blueberry. Mentor, rest assured. The Pavilion Master said the Middle-earth ruins are opening soon, and there's a druid sanctuary there. I will definitely go in and find the primary ingredients. I absolutely will not let you die. Alara sat kneeling on the carpet, the rims of her eyes red, but her gaze incomparably determined. Looking at the screen, my heart felt both sour and warm. In reality, I was abandoned by everyone. In the game, this little girl was willing to risk her life for me. The game scene shifted. At the top of a broken cliff, the setting sun was like blood. Alara carried her pack, with Pavilion Master Balin and eldest senior sister Freya standing in front of her. Alara, the journey is perilous. This time, I will let your eldest senior sister escort you to gain experience. Balin looked stern. Freya was an alcoholic. She carelessly threw her arm around Alara's shoulders. Little junior sister, I'll protect you, but you have to cover all the alcohol on the way. Balin's face darkened, digging out 2 bags of gold coins from his pocket and clutching them tightly in his hands. Freya wasn't polite at all. She went up and pried open her master's fingers one by one, snatching the 20 gold coins over. We're off, old man. Freya pulled Alara away without looking back. Balin snorted coldly, stepped onto his floating flying sword, and shot into the sky. However, as he swept across the horizon, his sword key outlined for large words in the clouds over the broken cliff. May the holy light protect. Watching the screen, I clenched my fists. To save me, Alara was about to step into the dangerous ruins, and I absolutely could not just die a cowardly death from bone cancer. System, top me up another 5,000 bucks. On the screen, Alara's eyes were red, her fingers tightly pinching the hem of her skirt, her voice trembling. Your disciple has no complaints or regrets. Not even afraid of my eyes blurring from grinding magic potions all night. How can Mentor speak such discouraging words like entrusting a dying wish? Can't Mentor pull yourself together a bit? Hearing these words, this heart of mine, tortured cold by bone cancer, was instantly ignited. A terminal illness is not an abyssal curse. It is more terrifying than a curse. But even if this was just an AI in a game, she was desperately telling me, Silas, live, don't give up. I pressed the telepathic voice scroll, roaring fiercely into the void. This exalted one will not die. This exalted one wants to live. The damned heavens want me dead? I insist on living. To live, I dare to risk my life, dare to kill monsters, dare to make money to buy the most expensive specialized medicine. $1.5 million per injection? Then I'll buy 10, 100. As long as there is money, there will always be a day I get enough injections to get better. I pulled the door open, strutting proudly and valiantly. Outside the door, a petite figure shuddered in fright, backing up several steps and falling hard onto the ground on her butt. The girl sent by the Demon Hunter Guild, Trinity. This girl claimed to be here to monitor me. On a 3-meter-long sofa, she shrank to the far right and my cat Grim shrank to the far left. Separated by a clear boundary in the middle, one human and one demon trembled in fear. I didn't bother wasting words and directly laid out my conditions. Do you get paid for monitoring me? She swallowed hard, $150 a day. I extended my hand, half for each of us. Without hesitation, she changed her sitting position to kneeling on one knee, directly giving me a grand bow. Please absolutely allow me to monitor. From now on, you are my own blood brother. Deal. I pointed to the guest bedroom and let her stay, perfectly convenient for me to gather intelligence. That very night, I dragged her straight to a Demon Hunter Guild stronghold. Making money to treat my illness brooked no delay. I had to accept bounty missions. The moment I pushed open the secret door on the 4th floor of the Dragon Leap Internet Cafe, a strong stench of blood rushed over my face. Lying haphazardly on the floor were 2 corpses whose skulls had been flipped open. Their brains were entirely gone, their death state extremely miserable. All the demon hunters present were filled with righteous indignation, drawing their weapons one by one, ready to fight for their lives. Captain Briggs, with a gloomy face, took a fierce drag from his cigar and announced loudly, "We are running away." Everyone was dumbfounded. The enemy has fought their way to our door, and we're actually running? Before his words faded, the ceiling overhead was instantly covered in black spider webs. A half-human weaver demon the size of a desk hung upside down. Its human face was deathly pale. The corners of its mouth split to the base of its ears, letting out piercing, maniacal laughter. A silver-rank abyssal monster. Wanted criminal. The demon hunters were scared out of their wits. Briggs pulled out an enchanted shotgun and blasted a shot, yelling that he would cover the rear. As a result, the weaver demon rammed its head and collapsed the wall, and the ruins were filled with his agonizing screams. Trinity grabbed me and bolted. Rushing into a small alley, I casually asked her, "This spider is a wanted criminal? Is it worth money?" She nodded frantically. "Of course it's worth money. This guy has a bounty of $20,000. 20,000 bucks? I instantly stopped in my tracks and pulled out a handful of Stormflame runes from my pocket. The logic was very clear. Runes can insta-kill wolf demons and giant rats. In my eyes, this spider is equivalent to sudden death. I shook off Trinity, turned around, and walked right back. Make money. 2nd floor ruins. Briggs was covered in blood, missing an arm, being stepped on by the spider and mocked wildly. He gritted his teeth and pulled out the rune I gave him before, trying to counterattack, but the magic on the rune paper had long dissipated. turning it completely into waste paper. Just as the spider was about to spit acid to torture him, I silently walked up behind it. This monster was extremely vigilant and suddenly turned its head, staring dead at me. It was too clever for its own good, thinking I was holding a smoke grenade and trying to use the opportunity to save the person. You think I don't dare to paste it? They'll paste it for you to see right now. It shrieked madly, but its claws paused midair, not daring to touch. I didn't waste any words with it at all, directly using a drying rack to violently jab the Thunderfire rune dead onto its face. Turn around, hit the deck, cover my head. The movements were accomplished in one breath. Briggs, you're on your own. Boom! Blinding white light pierced through the entire second floor. Berserk thunder and fire exploded instantly. A large half of the second floor collapsed. The carapace the Weaver demon took pride in was completely shattered, blasted into fist-sized pieces. Its entire body was charred and smoking, desperately scurrying downstairs to escape. It had just rushed to the front door on the first floor when Trinity, standing right there, backhanded another rune and plastered it on the door. FCK. No. A second flash of lightning, and this silver rank monster was completely wiped out into flying ash. I climbed out of the ruins, patting the bricks off my body. My phone suddenly vibrated. A game pop-up lit up. Killed an abyssal demon spider. Reward obtained. Demon crystal fragment. Spider silk mithril soft armor delivered. My eyes went wide. Kill monsters in reality, drop loot in the game. A defensive soft armor had directly appeared out of thin air on my bed at home. This companion holy relic wasn't even pretending anymore. It was an open-hand fusion. Briggs climbed out of the stone pile, moved to tears and snot, insisting desperately on pulling me into the Demon Hunter Guild. I decisively refused, took away the 20,000 bucks bounty, turned around, and went to find Trinity to fish for information. This girl had just taken benefits from me and, completely off guard, spilled the entire mechanics of the Demon Hunter Guild's breathing technique from top to bottom. The prologue opens up all body nodes. The first volume guides mana into the body. A massive buzz resounded in my brain. It clicked. Everything clicked. No wonder after I gave myself a stab with the advanced acupoint piercing technique earlier, my right leg moved like the wind. The mana from the crystal bracelet had directly flowed along my meridians and nourished my muscles. In other words, I can also cultivate tidal mysteries. The prerequisite is that the mana circuits of my entire body are open. As long as I practice the game's Holy Spirit acupoint piercing technique to grand completion and completely open my own meridians, I will be able to use magic in reality. Screw being a tumor Superman. Next, it's time for me, Grand Mentor Silas, to take the stage. I sprinted home, locked the bedroom door, and clicked open the game panel. Upgrading the acupoint piercing technique from high tier to master level requires spending 1,000 in the game. Spend. To save my life. Not a single cent will be spared. I looked at the screen. Elara and eldest senior sister Freya were resting in a small inn in the mortal realm. The two had just gotten into bed. Eldest senior sister was bold and uninhibited. She directly took off her undershirt and tossed it aside. Elara, terrified, shrank under the covers, not daring to look. I didn't care about these details at all. I directly threw down money and dropped a high-tier mana array. 10 top-quality mana crystals fell from the sky, and terrifying mana instantly filled the entire room. Elara, under the covers, let out a whimper. Eldest senior sister, stripped completely naked, looked at the array, her scalp going numb. The heart that was hanging in suspense completely died. So Elara's mentor can see? I didn't have time to bother with her social death. I continued to swipe my credit limit madly in the mall. To scrape together 1,000, I locked my eyes onto the limited-time items refreshing in the mall. Astral Skyship. Price, 1,500. Speed comparable to a Grand Magus flying through the air, fully autonomous driving. Perfect for Elara to use for traveling. Buy. Above the sky of Qinghe City, space tore violently, and a massive steampunk skyship descended out of thin air. The night patrol guards of the entire city were all dumbfounded, kneeling on the ground shouting that a miracle had manifested. System prompt. Spend 15 to use the secret art titan's hand to transfer the array, without interrupting your apprentice's cultivation. Must pay. Buzz. A semi-transparent giant arcane hand descended from the sky. Its 5 fingers spread wide, grabbing the entire inn where Elara was staying. Uprooted entirely, the giant hand shook violently in midair, shaking out all the other passersby staying inside. Then it wound up its arm and, like throwing a football, viciously smashed the entire inn onto the skyship's deck. Touchdown score. Perfect. The skyship instantly started, hurtling at full speed toward its destination, Emerald Star Valley. I also let out a long sigh of relief. My brain started to swell. The system prompted that breaking through to master level for the acupoint piercing technique takes 6 hours, and my operations were too fast, overloading my brain capacity. I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. When I wake up, it will be the moment my Silas mana is unlocked. The skyship tore through the sea of clouds for a whole night. At dawn, Freya stretched and pushed the door open, her entire person petrifying on the spot. Outside the door wasn't a bustling street, but a bottomless layer of clouds. Right outside the inn's front door was shockingly seemingly the skyship's core power engine. The inn was uprooted entirely. Alara looked at the marks around them, her eyes full of emotion. It must have been Mentor displaying a great divine ability, so as not to disturb their cultivation. Mentor is so good. Just as the two were leaning over the ship's rail looking down, a sudden mutation occurred. Boom! A loud crash. The sky shook and the earth trembled. The skyship, without any deceleration, crashed headfirst and shattered Emerald Star Valley's illusion barrier. Half the hull was dead stuck into the barrier's nexus, forcibly tearing a massive gap in this city-protecting grand array. The entire Emerald Star Valley completely blew up. A large number of mages fell into chaos. On the roof of the inn, two figures descended from the sky. Emerald Star Valley's heir, Elena. Standing next to her was a burly, bald female knight commander wearing lipstick. Last night, Elena had just ordered the barrier opened, preparing to make things difficult for the Severed Steel Order, but as a result, she woke up to find a skyship had smashed her front door to pieces. She stared dead at Alara and Freya, her eyes cold, the corners of her mouth curling into a sneer of ridicule. I wondered who it was. Turns out it's the little mice from the Severed Steel Order. I really didn't expect that you bunch of poor ghosts waving pieces of iron could actually afford an astral skyship. You crashed into my Emerald Star Valley's grand array, and you still dare to act arrogant here? Freya had a fiery temper. She drew her heavy crossguard sword, pointed it at the other party, and cursed. Who are you calling little mice? Believe it or not, this old lady will cleave you in half with one sword. Before the words faded, the bald knight commander next to them snorted coldly. A terrifying aura, like Mount Tai pressing down on the top of their heads, instantly pinned Freya firmly in place, unable to move a muscle. An old monster at the Grand Magus level. The fat on the bald knight commander's face twisted, her voice vulgar and violent. Young master, why waste words with these two pieces of trash? The bald brute pressed forward step by step, her berserk aura locking onto Alara. She pulled out a black giant axe and smiled hideously. Chop off their limbs and throw them into the dungeon. Let the Severed Steel Order bring gold coins to ransom them. Just as the bald knight was about to strike, Elena waved her hand to stop her. I keep my word. They'll give you one chance. She sneered coldly, tossing out a magical golden lotus. The golden lotus exploded instantly, dragging Alara and Freya directly into Emerald Star Valley's nightmare barrier. Break the array and then you can buy medicine. Deep within the barrier, the mental attacks were extremely vicious. Betrayal by former fellow disciples and the tragic scene of her parents' deaths played in turn. But Alara paid them no mind at all. It wasn't until the scene before her eyes changed, and she saw me, clad in white and covered in blood, being torn apart and eaten alive by a pack of ghouls. This time, they poked a hornet's nest. Alara completely snapped, her eyes blood-red. She drew her long sword, staring dead at the darkness above, her killing intent directly tearing a gap in the sky dome. This girl actually wanted to sever the heavens with a single sword strike. In reality, I was sleeping soundly when my phone's piercing alarm blasted me awake. The screen flashed wildly with blood-red text. Warning, your digital girlfriend has provoked the laws and is about to be struck dead by lightning. Holy SHT, how can this be allowed? I sprang out of bed in a second, tapping frantically to force a halt. Boom, a bell tolled in my mind, and Alara instantly regained her clarity. Seeing Alara out of danger, I looked over at eldest senior sister Freya. This reckless woman was trapped dead by her inner demons, rolling wildly in a mud puddle, yelling for someone to put out a fire. I immediately transmitted my voice to Alara. Quick, give your senior sister 2 slaps to wake her up. Hearing my voice, Alara's tears instantly broke their banks. She knew I wasn't dead and that everything was an illusion. She turned to look at her senior sister and pulled out a wooden basin of ice water and a leather whip from her system inventory. Senior sister, forgive me. She placed a hand on her chest in a salute, soaked the leather whip thoroughly in the ice water, and lashed out wildly with a backhand. Smack! Ice water mixed with excruciating pain, and Freya screamed miserably, jolting awake on the spot. What a talent. This apprentice is ruthless enough. I like it. But this crappy barrier was still here. I switched back to the mall, my eyes locking onto the pay-to-win options. A normal array-breaking cost a few $100, but at a glance, I locked onto option 3, 6,666, to forcefully elevate the avatar to the legendary realm and unleash the ultimate move of the Astral Blade Codex. This Emerald Star Valley dared to bully my disciple. I must teach them a lesson they will never forget. Directly choosing option 3, Super Double, putting on the gaming helmet. A flash of light and shadows, and clad in white, I stepped on empty air and appeared at the very top of the nightmare barrier. Seeing me, Alara's eyes lit up, her face full of worship. I put on an unfathomably deep facade. Apprentice, watch closely. Today, your mentor will teach you another sword strike. Drawing the sword, unsheath it. The heaven and earth of the continent of Ethelgard instantly changed color. In broad daylight, the blazing sun was forcibly suppressed. The sky transformed into a profound astral void, reflecting a sky full of galaxies. The terrifying aura of the legendary stage rolled over the entire Emerald Star Valley like a massive millstone. The originally arrogant Elena now had a face as pale as a corpse. She scrambled out, dropping directly to her knees, her entire body shaking like a sieve. My lord, spare my life. Let's talk this out. Emerald Star Valley is willing to make amends. I sneered coldly. Hold my hand? Too late. Take this Exalted One's sword. Stepping on a sky full of stars. Looking down from above, my long sword slashed down fiercely. The galaxy hangs upside down, falling from the 9 heavens. A single sword slashes through the eternal night. Boom! The sky full of stars exploded into countless sword lights, transforming into a waterfall-like torrent, smashing solidly onto Emerald Star Valley. With this single sword strike, even I was stunned. I clearly only used 80% of my power, but as a result, the Star Valley's largest 100 Flowers peak was cleanly cleaved in two on the spot. A bottomless abyss rift pierced through the entire guild plaza, with Berserk Arcane Sword Key howling madly inside it. From the smoke and dust, a white-haired woman rushed out, desperately using both hands to catch the shockwaves, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. It was exactly the Valley Master of Emerald Star Valley. She knelt on the ruins, holding my sword light with both hands, humbling herself into the mud. My lord, please be merciful. This junior is willing to bear all consequences. The avatar time had 10 seconds left. I quit while I was ahead, acting deeply mysterious. This Exalted One foresaw the future and felt that your Star Valley has a great destiny with my sword. When I have time in the future, this Exalted One will come back to hack some more. After speaking, I logged off with flair. When I switched back to my phone, Elena was already as obedient as a quail. Magic herbs worth tens of thousands of gold coins were not only given free of charge, but they were also forced to accept a pile of broken copper and iron from the Severed Steel Order as collateral. Even that heavily injured Valley Master stared at the abyssal sword mark I had cleaved open like it was a supreme treasure. She directly ordered the entire guild to meditate on the peerless sword intent inside it every day from now on. Good lord, I dismantled her house, and instead, she treated me like a living bodhisattva. The matters in the game were settled. In reality, my Holy Spirit acupoint piercing technique had finally ground its way up to master level grand completion. As long as I prick myself with a few needles, I will be able to open the mana circuits in my entire body and truly step onto the path of magic cultivation. But for safety's sake, I had to find a lab rat first. My eyes locked dead onto the black cat in my house. Grim. This hellhound was very sharp. Seeing me pull out the silver needles, it was so terrified it ran frantically all over the room. With a fake-out move, I grabbed the scruff of its neck. Be good, just one prick. If you get popular, you can even learn to do backflips to earn cat food. Grimp's eyes were full of humiliation, roaring wildly inside. Little did I know, this thing was no ordinary cat at all, but an ancient abyssal giant beast. I drove the needle down, the max-level needle technique flowing like water so fast it left afterimages. Grim was instantly frozen. It originally wanted to fight for its life, but as a result, the next second, its eyes went round with sheer pleasure. This power wasn't harming it at all. It was forcefully helping this mortal cat body widen its meridians throughout its entire body. Just as I finished the acupuncture and withdrew the needles, my roommate Trinity pushed her door open and came out. This girl had long been stunned seeing my hand movements that were full of afterimages just now. She carefully handed me a smartwatch. Big brother Silas, this is a custom-made watch from the Demon Hunter Guild. It can scan for nearby monsters. Take it for self-defense. My eyes lit up, perfect to test on Grim. Aiming at the black cat, one-click scan. The screen lit up a green light. Detection passed. This is a cute little kitty. Sigh, I was a bit disappointed. I thought this dead cat could give me a surprise. The hellhound licking its paw next to me sneered inwardly. As an abyssal lord, it could already freely retract and release its demonic aura. How could a broken watch possibly scan it out? Not giving up, I aimed the watch again at the big carp I had bought from the vegetable market this morning. Beep, beep, beep. Red lights flashed wildly. Warning, mutated monster detected. I gasped out loud on the spot, turning my head to look at Trinity. 3 zeros. Guess what? This fish really is a sea monster. If I stew it and eat it, do you think it can increase my mana? The big carp was so terrified it flapped its tail frantically, its fins slapping loudly smack smack, tears almost bursting out of its eyes. Trinity's face turned deathly pale. She had imagined a whole bunch of things, thinking this carp was a minion enlightened by the big shot black cat. Terrified that I would anger the black cat by stewing it, she lunged forward to desperately persuade me to stop. Big brother, monster meat has curses. You really can't eat it. To save its life, the big carp opened its mouth wide and, with a puff, spat out a top-quality magic pearl the size of a quail egg. My eyes lit up, and I immediately negotiated with it. Spit one out a week, and I won't eat you. Deal? The big carp nodded frantically. Deal. From now on, you are my family's wealth-bringing fish, Little Green. Picking up tens of thousands of bucks in pearl money for free every month. This business is a massive profit. Sending the sea monster back to the water basin, I casually found an excuse to have Trinity run an errand to the suburbs to buy pizza, sending her away. The room was finally quiet. I took off my shirt, pulled out the silver needles, and took a deep breath. It's time for me, Grand Mentor Silas, to take the stage. The master-level acupoint piercing technique. Without any hesitation, I pierced directly into my major acupoints, one needle after another. Intense pain accompanied by indescribable pleasure wildly washed over my body. The wind was pulsing, the smells in the air instantly became incredibly clear, and my vision grew as sharp as an eagle's eye. I succeeded. I clenched my fist tightly, feeling the surging power within my body. Taking a step forward, I threw a vicious punch right at the load-bearing wall. Bang! FCK. Ow, ow, ow. My fist instantly swelled into a purple bun. I hopped around the room in agonizing pain. Only then did I realize that just opening the circuits meant absolutely nothing. I didn't have a single drop of mana in my body, so that was purely my physical flesh smashing into a wall. It seems practicing magic still has to follow basic laws. Enduring the pain, I clicked open the mobile game. On the panel, the originally grayed out inner cultivation method title mysteries was now fully lit up. As long as I comprehend this cultivation method, I can draw chi into my body. I clicked learn without hesitation. Whoosh! Deafening sounds of ocean waves suddenly rang in my ears. The scene before my eyes instantly changed to a blue sea and blue sky, with raging waves crashing against the shore. A phantom mage figure treaded upon the waves. With every gesture, the tide rose and fell, and mana transformed into terrifying whirlpools. The anomaly existed for only an instant before completely dissipating. Replacing it was the first page of the cultivation method, densely packed with ancient elven language. I fell silent. Even if I pulled out Google Translate, what came out would be a horse's lips not matching a donkey's mouth. Just based on my literary reserves as a science student, I completely couldn't understand how to practice the first step. Having this cultivation method in front of me but being unable to practice it was simply worse than killing me. Just as I was stressing over it, I caught a glimpse of Alara in the game screen, sitting on the bed twisting around, her cheeks flushed red. I had casually poked her face on the screen just now, and this girl probably felt it. A plan formed in my mind. Since I don't understand it, let the one who understands teach me. I cleared my throat, pressed the telepathic voice scroll, my voice authoritative and deep. Alara, you have been cultivating title mysteries for some time now. This cultivation method is profoundly mysterious and difficult to comprehend. Today, your mentor shall test you on it. On the screen, Alara's eyes instantly brightened into crescents, her face written all over with excitement. She quickly sat cross-legged on the bed, deliberately slowing her movements down significantly, pretending to be very unskilled and ignorantly innocent. Your disciple is dull, and there are many parts where I still need mentor's guidance. Please review it, mentor. How was this a demonstration? She was practically chewing the cultivation method to pieces, breaking it apart, and feeding it into my mouth bit by bit. I stared at the screen, my hands moving so fast they left after images, frantically taking screenshots and screen recordings. So that's how the hand seals are formed. So my mind is supposed to meditate on elemental balance, not thinking about tap water or mineral water at all. Your foundation still needs consolidation. Next, guide the mana into your body, show it to your master. I continued keeping a straight face to fish for information. Alara was completely defenseless and immediately followed my words, explaining the entire routing of drawing chi into the body for a grand circulation from the crown node to the spinal circuit, and then to the Starseed vortex exactly as it was. After she finished, she even lowered her head with a blushing face to admit her faults. Your apprentice's understanding of the cultivation method is crude and unrefined. Not even a tenth of mentors. I beg mentor to resolve my doubts. My head was full of dark lines. This is called crude and unrefined. Then what does my comprehension, which couldn't squeeze out a fart for half a day, count as? She eagerly waited for my pointers, but even if I poured out all the ink in my belly, I couldn't string together 2 sentences of magical proverbs. Left with no choice, I could only resort to my ultimate weapon. I took a deep breath and unleashed a barrage into the telepathic voice scroll. With the embers of the abyss, I forge my destiny. Even if winter is coming, I am the storm. The light is undying. Magic is eternal. It was entirely composed of golden quotes I memorized from reading Western fantasy web novels back in the day. After sending it, the void fell dead silent. My heart beat like a drum. Can I really bullshit my way through with this? Who would have thought the system was extremely intelligent, directly transforming my gibberish into a deafening, sacred, grand voice. Boom! An authoritative voice exploded inside Alara's room. Light and shadow intertwine. Elements resonate. The rising tide is light, the falling tide is shadow. Drawing upon the origin of heaven and earth rather than the surface of mana. Remolding the true body. Only then can one align with the truth. The more Alara listened, the brighter her eyes became. The next second, a dazzling blue light violently erupted around her. Water element magic from all directions gathered toward her wildly like a tidal wave. She, who had originally just been promoted to an official mage, saw her realm skyrocket, and in the blink of an eye, she actually forcefully smashed through her bottleneck, directly stepping into the ranks of mid-tier mages. Alara opened her eyes, performed a standard mage's highest etiquette toward the void, her voice trembling. Mentor has imparted everything without reservation. The grace of teaching the Tao is like recreating the world. Your disciple will certainly not disappoint Mentor's expectations. Seeing her looking so moved, she was about to cry. I wiped the sweat off my brow. That actually caused an epiphany, truly worthy of being my good disciple. In the blink of an eye, the skyship had already arrived above the severed steel order. The scene shifted to the back mountain of the order. Pavilion Master Balin was standing in front of a pitch-black cave, smiling with extreme greed. This old guy was so broke he had gone crazy, actually setting his sights on Alara's skyship. He had absolutely no idea that his own apprentice was sitting inside the skyship. With a wave of his large hand, he directly unleashed the Order's guardian magical Biasta legendary level giant wolf the size of a mountain, big husky. Go, dismantle that flying ship. They'll find you a female wolf later. Balin roared loudly. Big husky let out a wolf howl to the sky. Its eyes were blood red as, like an unbridled black whirlwind, it shot straight up into the sky. On the skyship, eldest senior sister Freya's face turned green with fright, desperately shouting down, "Master, don't attack. It's me and Alara." Hearing the voice, the smile on Balin's face instantly froze, and he was so terrified he launched himself straight off the ground. Wicked beast, stop. But it was completely too late. Big Husky's mind was completely clouded by the desire to dismantle the spaceship for a wife, and with its bloody maw wide open, its massive body crashed fiercely toward the skyship's magic shield. Right at this hair-raising moment, I violently smashed down US dollars to forcefully descend my avatar. In front of the skyship, space tore violently. Clad in white hair, I stepped out through the air. Without even looking at that stupid wolf, I raised my right leg and aimed right at its massive dog head with a heavy, powerful midair whip kick. Bang! The void shattered instantly. The terrifying shockwave shook out a ring of visible ripples in the sky full of clouds. The skyship was pushed back hundreds of meters by the aftermath. That arrogant guardian magical beast, at a speed 10 times faster than when it charged up, turned into a black shooting star and smashed heavily into the small hill below. With a loud boom, half of the entire hill collapsed on the spot, and miserable dog yelps rang out from the ruins. With my arms crossed over my chest, I looked down from above at the terrified, dumbfounded Balin and coldly snorted, "Warning one, if this happens again, this exalted one won't mind roasting some wolf meat to eat." Dropping that sentence, I logged off with flair. The scene cut back to the Order's greenhouse. The magic herbs had been gathered, but brewing the antidote required a top-tier crucible that could withstand extreme high temperatures. The Elder looked troubled. The president of the Alchemist's Guild has an ancient dragon crucible, but he looks down on everyone, thinking us sword cultivators are beggars, so it's absolutely impossible to borrow it. Alara grew anxious, biting her lip to press the issue. Is there really no other way? The Elder pulled out a tattered parchment scroll, his face gloomy. There is. A druid fragment records that a mage can be used as the furnace. A water element mage jumps into the fire, uses their own mana as fuel, and forcefully burns away the impurities in the herbs. Balin, who was standing to the side, snatched the parchment and smashed it onto the ground, cursing loudly. What kind of dark magic is this? Burn it right now. He'll go to the Alchemist's Guild and rob them right now. The two elders argued back and forth. Alara, however, silently picked up the fragment from the ground. She pinched the parchment tightly. There was not a shred of fear in her eyes, only the absolute resolve of someone burning their bridges. Pavilion Master, Elder. To save my mentor, this disciple is willing to try. Seeing this scene, my breathing hitched. This silly girl, does she not even want her own life? She took a deep breath, turned around, and jumped into the massive iron pot burning with raging alchemical fire, waving her hand to cover it with the lid. Before going in, she even specifically begged the elders to set up a soundproofing barrier, terrified that her screams of agony would leak out and distract me. On the screen, the magic arrays around the furnace operated madly, and blazing flames swallowed the entire body of the pot. I stared dead at the screen, my fists clenched tightly. Strength. I need stronger strength. Just then, the system battle pass refreshed. A blind box flashing with purple light popped out. Open Elemental Affinity Blind Box. I clicked it open without hesitation. A blinding golden electric arc struck the screen. Obtained rare talent, Heart of Thunder Single Element Lightning Magic. It was actually a top-tier, single attribute lightning element magic talent. Heart of Thunder. Delivered. A clap of thunder violently exploded in my mind. I quickly looked inward into my star sea, only to see that on that barren land of Adantion, a magic sapling flashing with berserk electric arcs had shockingly grown. Elements from all directions began to spontaneously gather toward it, tainted with a destructive aura of lightning. Everything is ready. All that is needed is the east wind. I immediately sat cross-legged and, following the method Alara taught, operated tidal mysteries. Mana poured in through the crown of my head like silk threads, traveled along my meridians, and finally converged in the star sea, transforming into a rapidly spinning magic vortex. With a soft pop, a wisp of clear chi rose from the top of my head and dissipated. I abruptly opened my eyes, feeling the surging power in my limbs and bones, and couldn't help but let out a wild laugh. I did it. I finally stepped through the gates of magic. Magic Apprentice, Tier 1. I clenched my fists, and mana gathered madly toward my right fist. Filled with confidence, I stared at the load-bearing wall in front of me, stepped forward, twisted my waist, and viciously smashed a punch onto it. Bang! FCK! Screams of agony like a slaughtered pig echoed through the entire apartment building. 10 minutes later, grimacing in pain, I applied an ice pack to my right hand, which had swollen into a purple bun. Too reckless. I only opened the circuits, but I don't even have a warrior's foundation, so my physical Boda strength is completely insufficient. Without a magic shield, this punch was purely throwing an egg against a rock. Money. Right now, the most important thing is money. Without money to buy the specialized medicine, I still have to die. I immediately clicked open the Demon Hunter Guild's smartwatch, my eyes scanning madly over a pile of missions. Very quickly, a mission locked my sight. Investigate the Century New City Phase 3 construction site. Bounty, 50,000. If the scourge is completely resolved, an additional 50,000. You're the one. 100 grand, and the distance is close. Let's do it. I had just accepted the mission when the front door was pushed open by Trinity. This girl rushed in panting heavily, hands on her hips, yelling at me loudly, "Silas, how dare you casually accept a mission? That place is a bottomless pit. 3 bronze-rank demon hunters have already disappeared there." I expressionlessly put on my jacket. The bounty is high, but you won't have a life to spend it. She stomped her feet in anxiety. I glanced at her coldly. Without money to treat my illness, I equally have no life. If you're scared, just stay at home. This sentence accurately stepped on her fuse. Her face flushed red. She grabbed a tumterlong refined steel spear. "Who's scared? Let's go." We took a cab straight to the construction site. The night was pitch black, and the construction site gates were locked tight. Standing at the entrance were surprisingly 4 hot female college students, chattering away wanting to explore. The moment they saw me, all their eyes lit up. The girl with dyed blonde hair even came straight up, grabbed my arm, her face full of infatuation. "Handsome, can I get your Instagram?" I was too lazy to waste words, directly letting her scan my QR code for the account, warned them absolutely not to go inside, turned around, and flipped over the construction site wall with Trinity. We hadn't walked far when a mournful, miserable scream suddenly came from outside the site's gate. Trinity's face changed drastically. She raised her watch to scan, and the screen flashed red wildly. "Oh no, it's an abyssal monster. Something happened outside." Before she even finished her sentence, I had already moved. Mana instantly infused my legs. I grabbed her shoulder and, like teleporting, sped wildly through the dark night. The fierce wind howled, and before Trinity could even scream, she was already carried by me flying to the construction site entrance. Outside the gate, the stench of blood shot into the sky. Under the dim, flickering streetlights stood a terrifying humanoid monster over 2 meters tall. With its back to us, it emitted bone-chilling chewing sounds from its mouth. Hearing the commotion, the ghoul stopped its movements and casually tossed a round object onto the ground. The moment Trinity saw clearly what that object was, her hairs stood on end. It was a human head that had been half-eaten. It was exactly the blonde girl who had asked for my account just now. The ghoul let out a hoarse, ear-piercing, eerie laugh and violently swung its arm. A mutilated female corpse smashed right toward our heads like a cannonball. Behind the female corpse, a sharp giant claw emitting black smoke tore through the air, heading straight for my face. "Silas, dodge!" Trinity rolled to the side in terror, shouting in despair. "Dodge?" I stood in place, my eyes cold to the extreme. Clang! The crisp hum of a sword tore through the night sky. I didn't even look at the incoming corpse. Drawing the sword, striking with the sword, accomplished in one continuous motion. A lightning sword light drew a blinding white line in the night. The flying corpse was instantly cleaved into 2 from the middle. The black giant claw hidden behind it, along with the ghoul's massive body, was forcefully chopped into 2 halves by this devastatingly destructive sword strike. The foul-smelling black blood squirted all over my face. I didn't even blink, backhanding to flick the blood beads off the rune longsword, and spoke coldly. "Did you know, I actually quite liked the way she called me handsome." A bizarre gurgling sound came from the ghoul's ruined throat. Completely locked down by that icy chill of death, it desperately tried to beg for mercy. "Senior, a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding." A backhanded swing. The sword light flashed. A massive head flew diagonally up into the sky. The ghoul's huge body collapsed with a crash. Who knew? The moment that head hit the ground, a few tentacles grew madly out from the severed neck. It ran frantically on the ground like a spider, turning its head to sneer hideously at me while running. "You can't kill me. When Lord Demon King revives, all of your Demon Hunter Guild will have to die." "Not dead?" I raised an eyebrow, power exploding violently under my feet. With a boom, the concrete ground was directly shattered by my stomp. My entire body turned into an afterimage, carrying the sword and bouncing left and right on the abandoned steel rebar framework, the speed so fast you could only see a streak of white light. "What?" The ghoul's head looked back, its eyeballs nearly popping out in terror. With a midair somersault, I landed steadily right in front of it. The tip of my sword pointed straight at the center of its brows. "I'm sorry, my lord. Let's talk this out nicely," it shrieked, begging for mercy. "Shut up. Drop your loot." Raising my hand, the sword fell. The sword key directly cleaved that head into powder, pinning it dead to the wall. The system prompt rang out right on time. "Killed Abyssal Ghoul, obtained Demon Crystal Fragment X1. I put away the sword, turning around to find Trinity. This girl was currently shrinking by a pile of scrap materials in the corner, her head lowered, hugging her knees tightly and trembling. "Hey, scared silly?" I walked over and waved a hand in front of her face. Before the words faded, a sudden mutation occurred. Swish! Trinity abruptly looked up, her eyes hollow, grabbed the long spear by her side, and like a viper striking from its hole, the spear tip thrust straight at my face. Extremely fast, but under my overflowing perception right now, it was as slow as a snail. I tilted my head slightly to dodge the spear tip, backhanded to firmly grab the spear shaft, exerted force from my waist, and with a violent overtheshelder throw, smashed her and the spear heavily onto the ground. Bang! Trinity let out a scream and fell into the pile of scrap. I pressed forward, my eyes instantly locking onto the back of her neck. Lying dead still, there was a bizarre spider with a blood-red abdomen. This thing was controlling her. Seeing that it was exposed, the spider immediately moved its legs to run. The rune longsword flashed with a cold light, directly tearing it into 2 halves on the spot. More fragments? fragments? Found you. From the floor above my head, a gloomy, muffled grunt suddenly came. Trying to run, I put the sword away, placed it in my mouth, and bit down hard. Mana instantly suctioned onto my hands and feet. In the pitch-black night, like Spider-Man, my entire body crawled frantically upward along the 90-degree vertical exterior wall at an extremely violent speed. Just as I flipped onto the roof, a cold wind attacked from behind. Little brat from the Demon Hunter Guild, you still dare to come up here and court death? A death cultist wrapped in a black robe and wearing a skull mask lunged forward. In his hand, he gripped a pitch-black dagger, thrusting straight at the back of my heart like a venomous fong. I didn't even turn my head, backhanding to grab the rune longsword from my mouth, turned around, and unleashed a heavy, powerful horizontal slash. The foundational sword moves of the Astral Blade Codex had absolutely no flashy tricks, only pure speed and ruthlessness. Clang! The sword blade and the dagger collided fiercely together, only hearing a crisp crack. The death cultist was directly blasted flying backward. He looked down at the dagger in his hand that had broken into 2 pieces, his entire person completely dumbfounded. How is this possible? This is forged from cursed black steel. Just what exactly are you? He shrieked, backing away frantically as if he had seen a ghost. My face cold, I pressed forward step by step, hand over the dropped loot. I really don't know what dropped loot is, my lord. He was so terrified he fell to his knees with a plop, scrambling backward, retreating all the way to the edge of the rooftop. He hurriedly pulled out a pile of broken copper and iron from his clothes, threw it on the ground, and kowtowed madly. My lord, these are all my treasures. I beg you to just let me go like a fart. I have elderly parents and young children at home. I stopped in my tracks, my eyes narrowing slightly, staring at him. Do you have money? The cultist froze. I do. I decisively pulled out my phone, brought up my Zelle receiving QR code, and shoved it in his face. Transfer the money. How long you get to live depends on how much you transfer. What's the point of doing missions to earn bounties? When is there anything faster than directly robbing the villains to get money? The death cultist was completely bewildered. In a world of magic revival chaos, there's actually someone asking for US dollars? But he didn't dare waste words, shivering as he scanned the code, transferring every last bit of the balance on his card over. Account received, 580,000. My lord, this is all the money I have, I swear. He squeezed out a smile uglier than crying, revealing a mouthful of scorched yellow teeth. Can I live now? I looked at the balance, my eyes shining, and nodded with satisfaction. Yes, you can. $10,000 buys you 0.1 extra seconds of life. 580K. I'll round it up and give you a discount. You get an extra 6 seconds. You're welcome. You. His eyes practically split open with rage, and just as he was about to erupt violently. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time's up. With a flick of my wrist, the long sword traced a perfect arc. A human head shot up into the sky, followed by another strike, sword key crisscrossing, directly shredding that head into pieces. System prompt pop-up. Killed death cultist, obtained crystal fragments, cursed black steel, broken dagger, mind control goo. Confirming the cleanup was complete, I carried the loot and flipped down from the building. Outside the construction site gate, police lights were flashing. Several off-road vehicles from the Demon Hunter Guild had already arrived. Trinity, clutching her broken ribs, was jumping up and down in anxiety. Quickly, find Silas. He hasn't come out. As soon as she turned her head, she saw me walking out, carrying a dripping sword. Silas, are you okay? She yelled in pleasant surprise. I pushed her aside, looking ahead in astonishment. The one leading the team wasn't Captain Briggs, but a white-haired old man. When he saw me, his pupils likewise trembled violently, his entire person as if struck by lightning. Old Arthur stared dead at my face, his lips quivering, almost unable to even grip his walking stick, and cried out in shock. You were Silas?